Good morning. Welcome to The Big Issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM, also on Channel One television. My name is Salom Adonu. The Big Issue, as always, is live. You can join the conversation via our WhatsApp line 020-444-7033 or 0549-986-996, and we'll be happy to share your views with the rest of the world. Last week around this time, we were preparing to launch the MPP manifesto, which occurred the day after that, on Sunday. A number of things came up in the manifesto for discussion. We'll look at some of them today. Today as well, the opposite number, the main opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, is launching its manifesto at Winneba today. We'll look at that as well and make a preview of what is supposed to be in that manifesto. Indeed, we've heard some of the things as the candidate went around the country promising people and winning their hearts and all of that. We'll look at the two and see what really the choices that Ghanaians are confronted with. That is for the first part of our show. The second part of our show, there's been some interesting development at COCOBOD. COCOBOD says that it is not going for any syndicated loan this time around, and that they are beginning to, or they will look inward to see if they can raise money to purchase cocoa beans. Over the last 32 years, it went to the international banks and got what we call the syndicated loan, which was a major foreign exchange introduction into our economy, helped a lot of times to stabilize the city. But this time around, COCOBOD is saying no, they will have to look within to get that done. Is it as a result of maturity of COCOBOD and the fact that COCOBOD is putting things in place right to ensure that they do not go out there looking for funds? Or like the minority has alleged, it is because COCOBOD has become credit unworthy. So international banks are not willing to lend to them at a good interest rate. What are the issues? What are the real issues confronting COCOBOD? Yields are falling, many factors to blame for that, key amongst them being galamsey. We will look at the issues and see what can happen, whether we should be celebrating that or we should be mourning. Once again, this is a big issue. I will take a short break. I will return, give you some updates, introduce my guests, and then we'll get the discussion underway. Yeah, welcome back. This is a big issue. Two issues on our plate today. One, MPP launched manifesto last week. NDC launches its own today. We'll look at some of the key issues in the manifesto, and also we'll be interested to know what stood out for you in the MPP manifesto, what you expect in the NDC manifesto. For the NDC, we've heard snippets of what is to come. At least they launched a youth manifesto weeks ago, and a lot of those matters in the youth manifesto will find their way in the main manifesto, or that the main manifesto will subsume a lot of those ones. We will see what the issues are. They launch a manifesto later today, so we have quite a good discussion for you. And let me say that we will be in Winneba the whole of the time until the manifesto is launched and the event closes. That is a promise, and that's what we've done every time. So your place to stay for the NDC manifesto launch is Channel One television or City FM. Also, we will look at the matter of COCOBOD. COCOBOD says this time around it will not take a syndicated loan. It will look inward to raise money to purchase cocoa for the crop season 2024-2025. Ordinarily, that should be celebrated if a state agency or institution wins itself of international loans, etc., and tries to mobilize resources internally to do what it has to do. But the minority has other ideas. The minority thinks that it is a safe saving measure. It is not an honest position to hold, and that COCOBOD is saying so because it is credit unworthy and is unable to raise the funds at a good interest rate from the international market. That is why they are coming up with this at this time. We will look at the matters as we have been told. So these are the two issues we're looking at. Let me give you some updates. So now, a week after the governing MPP launches manifesto in Takoradi, its main challenger in the 2024 elections, the National Democratic Congress, is set to launch its manifesto today, August 24, in the central regional town of Winneba. Let's take excerpts of the MPP manifesto as outlined by the MPP flag bearer and Vice President, Dr. Bawumia.
Ladies and gentlemen, I come to the cost of living, reducing the cost of living. Another major priority of my government will be to reduce the cost of living. The world is facing what is commonly referred to as the global cost of living crisis. Even though the inflation has dropped by half this year, prices remain high. I want a Ghana where we can attain food security through the application of technology and irrigation to commercial large-scale farming. We will also promote the use of agricultural lime to reduce the acidity of our soils, enhance soil fertility, and get more yield from the application of fertilizers. Ghana has an abundance of limestone to do this. I will prioritize the construction of the Pualugu Dam by using the private sector financing to crowd in grant financing. Ladies and gentlemen, we will also ensure food security by stabilizing the prices of foods produced locally through financing and guarantees from the Development Bank Ghana and the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, also known as GESL. This will mainly involve upscaling the production of staple foods, investing in the preservation of staple foods, meat, poultry, and fish products, and establishing agricultural enclaves which will have irrigation, processing, and storage facilities in each region for crops or grains in which the regions have a comparative advantage. We will reduce the cost of transportation by promoting and supporting electric vehicles for public transportation. By the grace of God, I hope the first 100 buses that we will be introducing for public transportation will hopefully, inshallah, arrive before the end of December this year. From the challenges and the priorities we have tackled, from the successes we have chalked, to the hard work to succeed with you on the priorities that I have laid before you today. I will work for you, with honesty and integrity, with wisdom and decisiveness. I have clarity of mind as to what I want to do from day one as president. I will not ask you for a honeymoon to cool off and think about what to do with the responsibility you give me. I am prepared and ready to serve. You know what I stand for. You know my vision. I believe in the ingenuity of the Ghanaian. Together we can succeed in building a progressive society of possibilities, enterprise, compassion, open opportunities, and shared prosperity for every Ghanaian, born rich or poor, born in the north or the south, born Christian or Muslim, born a girl or a leper or a boy, a leper or a disabled person. I have never been president of Ghana before. I am presenting myself to you for the first time to ask for your precious vote to serve you as your president and to continue the development agenda of the MPP. When you make me president, inshallah, I will implement my own vision that I have outlined. In all humility, I will ask you to give me the opportunity to become one of the most impactful presidents in Ghana's history. In conclusion, dear Ghanaians, what I have presented today are just highlights of our manifesto. There are many more details and policies that are found in the full version. I implore you and entreat you all to read the full manifesto. This manifesto we are launching today is a manifesto of hope, a manifesto anchored on bold solutions to usher in the golden age of good governance and accountability, and a manifesto of possibilities, focusing on quantum leaps in jobs and prosperity. Our positive mindset is built on a strong track record of innovations and achievements. Unlike our friends who regard every life-changing policy proposal as impossible, we in the MPP see possibilities. We innovate, deliver, and prosper. I mean to deliver for you and your family, for your future, for your business. Indeed, Bawumia means business.
All right, so that was Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia at his best at the launch of the MPP manifesto. He says he means business. Bawumia means business. Do you think he means business? The manifesto tried to, as it were, capture a lot of things that they want to do, or Bawumia wants to lead his team to do for the people of Ghana. He wants to move Ghana to the next level and next level of prosperity. He thinks that himself and his boss have laid quite a good foundation upon which he can propel the country to the next level. A number of things have come up, whether we can take those promises the way they are, or they are just talk. We will look at all of that this morning. And my guests to help me do the discussion today are Kojo Nsafwa Poku. He's a member of the MPP Manifesto Committee, and indeed, he was one of the persons who contested Dr. Bawumia for the MPP flag bearer slot. He has since been on the Manifesto Committee, chairing the energy subsector. And so he's here today to help us go through some of the matters. Dr. Sharif Mahmoud Khalid is a member of the NDC's Economic and Finance Committee. Franklin Kujo, President, Imani Africa. Dr. Atta Kennedy is a former MPP presidential aspirant. These are my guests today. Kujo.
Yeah,
Poku,
morning, bro.
Morning.
It's
Welcome to the program. Good, I'm great. It's been a while, of course. I know you've been running around the country, campaigning, and also doing your subsector work as energy committee chair or subcommittee chair. How has the process been like for you? I mean, collating views of the energy sector to input same into the manifesto of the MPP. How was that process like?
Well, the process was smooth, and I think when and let me greet all your cherished viewers and my greetings to our leader, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and all the campaign team. I know they are trying to get some good rest. We just came back from the Eastern region where it was marvelous and everybody was happy to see the next president of this country. Look, the manifesto work for me was quite straightforward and a much anticipated process. You know, when my name came up as the chair of the Energy and Petroleum, people were like, oh, okay. You know, this is the guy that have sat for the last 20 years and criticized policies and interrogated policies from the civil society and from my practical experience in the upstream and downstream in the power sector for the last 24 years.
So let's see what he brings on board.
So let's see what he can do. Now, instead of we're going to do a manifesto for you to criticize. Come and sit there and do the manifesto. But look, I knew the team and the people that I needed to talk to. The Imanis, Franklin Kujo sent his team, Kofi Bento came, ASEP, Ben Boachi came. I invited all the stakeholders to the plenary session. And we also asked for some of the stakeholders, like the upstream chamber, and to tell us what the problem is. I personally know the practical problems in the sector. But the team needed to also know some of the things that I already know. And if you look at the members of the committee, very sharp, brilliant young people and also seasoned CEOs, when we sat in the meeting, we realized that everybody came on board with the ideas that we have. we knew what the problem is. And I don't think anybody who is versed in the energy sector doesn't know what the problem is. So if you know what the problem is, then it's just basically trying to affirm it with everybody involved. And after you've affirmed the problem, the next thing is that, okay, what are the solutions? And look, everybody that we met came up with very beautiful solution. At the end, I think this is the first time that we've come up with a very practical manifesto. A manifesto that seeks to basically not promise to build, promise to spend money and do, no, manifesto that basically is realignment of policy, a realignment of sector, and basically going into to make sure that we cut the waste and we basically bring Ghanaians what they need, which is mainly a reliable sector, an affordable space, and basically a space that also help people to prosper, which is prosperity and grow businesses. In terms of, if you look at the bold solutions that the leader talks about, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia talks about, his manifesto was mainly bold solution for jobs and businesses. So we looked at, okay, every point in that manifesto has to have a link to, does it create jobs? Is it a solution for businesses? Does it help the average Ghanaian? And that was what guided us through the manifesto process. So yes, it was very challenging in terms of having to sift through and meet the deadlines that we had. But we did it, and we are happy that we have the best document out there today.
So when you start to plan yours, I mean, of course, and on the day, you had the opportunity to hear what others too had done. You as a member of the team, I mean, working under the chairmanship of Osei and all of that, what stood out for you in the process and then in the final document? Which manifesto promises will you say that this and this and this would be the game changers?
Well, look, this 260 manifesto, I can't say that this and this is a game changer. They are all game changers. If you look at every single sector, and when we did a retreat after all the subsectors presented their document, we were asked to present 3 versions of our manifesto: the abridged version, the extended version, and the normal version. And we sat through like almost 2 weeks. Every sector chairman and co-chair came in and we did a retreat and went through all the documents. Look, I will not be able to sit here and give you that these highlights are the game changer. Every sector, and I mean, I have gone through all 260 documents, right? Every single page I've gone through it. And if you look at energy, the 2,000 megawatts that Dr. Bawumia wants to do in 4 years, that is a huge game changer, right? If you look at education, the policies that has been rolled out under education, if you look at health, if you look at the digitization, the blockchain technologies that wants to come in, if you look at the reform of our the constitution that he wants to basically look at, if you look at all the other sectors, look, sports, every single sector, you realize that a lot of work has gone in, and it's a game changer when it's implemented. The big chunk of this manifesto is how. You realize that the litmus test for every policy was how. If you come up with a solution, right? They say, look, I have this policy. And the question that everybody asks is, okay, how would we implement it, right? And the how is important because you don't want to have a manifesto of words. A manifesto has to have the how. And the minute the chairman and the co-chair and the plenary were happy with the how it will be implemented, then look, everybody was happy for it to go ahead. But look, there are few points that have been there. Let me point out this one. There is this policy that nobody is paying attention to, and I think it needs to be flogged and Ghanaians understand it well, which is Dr. Bawumia intends to basically reduce our physical space by 3%, which will work out about 3% of GDP, which is about 30 billion Ghana cedis. Now, if you're saying that, look, private sector, we've always talked about private sector as the engine of growth. And the private sector always sit back and wants to be able to go out there and look for contracts and look for this and look for that, right? This is the leader who says that, look, when I'm president, I'm going to reduce my expenditure by 3% of GDP, 30 billion. Private sector, come. This is 30 billion worth of work. Go and enjoy, right? Private sector-led initiative. Build it and I'll lease it. Buy it and I'll lease it. He doesn't want to buy any cars. He wants to lease all government cars. He doesn't want to buy any computers. He wants to lease all government computers. He doesn't want to build any more school blocks and dormitories and all that. Private sector, have fun, go build it, and I'll lease it. So the offtake is there. Government is already waving a flag of offtake. Say, look, I am prepared to give you offtake for 30 billion worth of business. That is for me. Every businessman should be whipping up all their country people, all their town people and village people to go and vote for Dr. Bawumia, because that is the game changer in terms of business. The second one is the credit thing that he wants to introduce, where he goes on and say that kakra. Look, the world of the US, the world of the Europe is built on credit facility. Everybody today in America is who they are because of credit. If everybody is supposed to pay cash the way we pay cash in Ghana, the US economy will crash because they believe in the fact that you need to have a credit economy, and the credit economy is what drives America. Okay, so look, for me, in the world of business, that 3% of GDP that he is inviting the private sector to come and take part of, in that business, as a businessman, my mouth waters when I see that proposal.
I see. Great. We've been joined on the line also on Zoom, of course, by Dr. Arthur Kennedy. He is a former presidential aspirant of the MPP. Doc, you're welcome to the program. I know you followed the manifesto launch quite closely, or at least if you followed it generally. Like I started with Mr. Poku in the studio here, what stood out for you in the manifesto? What would be your highlights of that particular document?
Well, good morning to your viewers and to my co-panelists. I actually I'm not as excited by the details as most of you are. I think that I've done a lot of reflection, and there is actually quite a bit of overlap in the MPP manifesto that has been put out there. The expansion of the economy, job creation, digital economy, and all those. The NDC actually, the leaks about the manifesto they're about to launch today has things that are actually similar. 24-hour economy focused on job creation, tax reduction, abolishing facility fees in schools, anti-corruption. I actually want to invite your viewers to stand back with me a little bit and look at the idea of a manifesto in broader context, because we've seen a lot of manifestos, and I noticed that even the MPP, that is the incumbent party, appears to be promising a lot of new things as if they haven't been in government, because the NDC does the same thing. I commend to you Chapter 6, Article 35(7) of our Constitution, which says, and I quote, "As far as practicable, a government shall continue and execute projects and programs commenced by the previous government," unquote. Indeed, Article 35, Clause 8, right under that one also says, the state shall take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and abuse of power. I think that we should step back a little bit and look at how these directive principles of state policy relate to our manifesto making in our policies. When a party puts out a manifesto, is it indeed a promise? Is it a binding document? Because if you vote for parties on the strength of their manifesto and they come in and they do something else, or they don't fulfill most of the things they promised to do, and then they come back a few years later and they want another mandate, what recourse do the people of Ghana have, or people come into office saying they will manage the economy well, and they are not managing the economy well? Do we have any recourse? In other words, are these articles justiciable? And I think of the fact that even if it is not justiciable, is it morally binding? Let me give you an example. I live in the US and I follow politics here quite a bit. I remember in 1988 when H.W. Bush was making his acceptance speech for the Republican nomination, the soundbite that was on the front pages of most newspapers was he said, and the Democrats will push me, they will pass big taxes and all that, and I will say, read my lips, no new taxes. There was standing applause sustained applause for minutes. Well, 2 years later, he did a budget deal with the Democrats that involved raising taxes, and most people think that cost him re-election 2 years later. So the question is, to the extent that they matter, how much accountability follows manifesto promises in Ghana?
Yes, but you've answered the question, really. So in the US example you cited, you think that cost him the re-election. So it's a social contract. If they fail to deliver on it, the people have the opportunity to punish them at the polls. That is why they often come back for a renewal of the term. So if you presented a document to me upon which I voted you into power and you fail to deliver on it, I will vote you out. Is that not what it is?
Well, that is what it should be. The question is whether that is what it is. And actually, I was leading up to a point. The point being that, for example, if indeed Article 35(7) says that as far as practicable, government should continue projects and programs initiated by previous governments. If a government is not doing that, what recourse do the people have? For example, would someone go to court? And I can give you examples of, since Rawlins, almost every government has commenced a big public housing project. They do it up to about 80%, then they leave office. The next government comes, they go look for their own money, and they start their own public housing project. Then they abandon it. That admittedly might be causing financial loss to the state. But I can tell you that I have reason to believe that when this government leaves, and that doesn't mean that this is just a son of the MPP, I think that judgment debt might be one of the biggest scandals. And most judgment debts come from the fact that projects initiated by previous governments are abandoned whenever there is a new government. I think that aside from what I call banal debates about whose manifesto is better and all that, ideally the best executed one is the best. Most of them actually, despite the different languages, look very similar. I think the thing is how, as a society, we can hold political parties accountable for good execution of not just their own manifesto, but those of previous governments in which public resources have already been invested.
I see, but I hope you also admit that over the years, I mean, quite some progress is being made in terms of how the citizenry holds their public officials to account. It may not be the best yet, but some progress obviously is being made. And even the scrutiny that is given to the promises they make is also on the ascendancy. Now, let's look at some of these specifics. Of course, we all complain about size of government, etc. Dr. Bawumia is promising in his manifesto to reduce the cost of governance or government by 3% of GDP. That works out to some 30 billion cedis. That is quite a colossal amount of money, many have said, to be taken off the expenditure of government. Does that sound hopeful for you in terms of reducing government expenditure and perhaps channeling that into other useful sectors of the economy?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting point. The question, it begs the question though, about where he has been all the last 7 years. I think that it reminds me of the story of the girl who went to her father to tell the
thank you so much.
She was going back to her abusive husband, who had 2 children with her and had promised to marry her each time she got pregnant, only to renege on that promise, And the father said, "So where is the ring?" She said, "Dad," she says, "this time when I have this child, she will really, really marry me." The father said, "And you believe him?" I think that we need to judge people based on how they have conducted themselves in the past. It's not as if every election you wipe the slate clean. You know, somebody who is already in power, who can do certain things, and he's telling you he's going to do things that reasonably he ought to be able to do now. And he says, give me power in the next election, I will do X, Y, Z. The obvious question is, so why are you not doing it now?
But of course, we have heard that he is an assistant. He calls himself a mate. But the vice president really assists the president. It's the president's vision that the vice president helps implement. If president says, I want to take direction A, and vice president thinks direction B may be helpful, he can only suggest it. Okay, if the president thinks otherwise, he just has to follow and support him the best way possible. Once that will not lead to distraction. Of course, the other option is for him to resign from the government and then go his way. But that is quite a tall order. So won't you cut him some slack when he says that he was just assisting? And even in that role of an assistant, he has quite a few things he has listed to his credit. Digitizing the economy, doing a lot of things. I mean, the NIA card, for example, the Ghana card. I mean, quite undoubtedly, it's been given impetus, you know, by this vice president and a few things he has done in that respect. On his own merit, things he has been assigned, wouldn't you say that he has delivered on them well? And so that perhaps could give the indication that should he be given the steer, as he calls it, he will be able to steer the country in a better direction. Okay, all right. So Dr. Kennedy, we just lost him, but I'm sure he will get him back to answer that question. If I can, no, but let me do it, Franklin, quickly. Franklin.
No, but it's good. Let's try to attend some of the things that
Franklin has to leave. So,
Kojo, we don't have time.
Franklin, you do have time. Let's address some of the things that Dr. Kennedy said before.
I have a bill. I'm using my roaming data. Remember, I'm a bill.
You're using roaming data. You have so much money. You can use roaming data.
Well. Hello, Franklin. Welcome to the program. For the past few weeks, you have been roaming the globe trotting. We'll talk about that later. Wow. But yes, Bawumia is launched the manifesto. Quite a few things have come up. We were just looking at the 3% reduction, or 3% GDP reduction, which amounts to some 30 billion. I mean, which he hopes to reduce the cost of government with. We've talked about inefficiency in government, etc. You know, how does this come to you as somebody who has been leading that pack as well?
Well, it was interesting. Kojo, good to see you. Good to see you, Salam. It was interesting having that conversation a few days ago. I think I was discussing this with some people in the US. And at the last bit of the conversation we had with Dr. Kennedy concerning whether Bawumia was a driver's mate and so shouldn't take a lot of the, should I call it the responsibility for some of the things that probably didn't work, and maybe he should actually act now. You know, when you listen to the US debates, you realize that Kamala Harris says she'll do A, B, C, D, E, and F. And then Trump comes back and said, well, why didn't you do it when you were in office 3.5 years ago? In fact, why don't you actually get off the podium and go and do it right now? Interestingly, I didn't hear any Democrat, even Kamala, except saying that, oh, I was just a driver's mate, so I didn't have all the powers that I had, which is a legitimate question to ask anyway. And I think that question still stands. But having said that, I think for me, what stood out in the manifesto, especially as well, we started discussing, having the discussion, which is the private sector interventions. It is really interesting to note that the party that is supposed to be center-right party seems to now come back to the whole conversation about putting the private sector at the center of development, which is a very important thing. The question is, why haven't they been doing that in the last couple of years? What we've seen, unfortunately, has been just too much state-dominated, the state dominating the economy, and much more so capturing some of the commanding heights of the economy in a very negative way. But that's another discussion. I think what I saw or read from the manifesto was quite interesting, as I said. The 3% allocation of GDP to the private sector is interesting. That comes to about probably 30 or 40 billion Ghana cedis. If you look at historical records, right? But I would have wished we saw a lot more of that, because see, the public sector has shown that, especially the state sector, has shown that it's incapable of delivering any value at all. even if it has delivered something at all for us in the last couple of years. Unfortunately, we don't see value for money. We don't see productivity. We don't see, should I call it, essentially, we don't even do any proper cost-benefit analysis. So just take a look at all the big-ticket investment that the state has made on Nigeria. None of them has materialized properly, right? So I would have wished that I saw a bit more, maybe about 70% of all the initiatives Bawumia puts across as going to go to the private sector should actually go to the private sector. Should be 70%, 30%, so that the state just contributes 30% in terms of maybe personnel, maybe strategy. So when it comes to the money, the state should provide it. Sorry, the private sector should provide it. And if it is road should be told at different sections of whatever, whichever roads are constructed should be told at different sections. And then we decide how much that citizens should pay. So I think it was interesting to hear that the private sector will have a pride of place. But I'm looking at the percentages, and I think that we need to have a bit more conversation about that. I also think it is important to have some specifics. You know, Bawumia talks about the fact that he wants to start a flat tax revolution, which is a great thing. And by the way, this will not be the first time flat taxes are introduced in the country, right? Let's get that across, because I think he says that this will be the first time. Maybe he means this will be the first time it will be applied across board as an individuals and businesses. Because I remember the former finance minister of the NPP who died, Honorable Bawumia, and I actually had a conversation prior to he introducing the 3% flat tax for businesses whose treasury, I think, annual treasury was, I think, around 10,000 Ghana cedis at the time. And so he did something like that. And I think we should have continued from that particular angle, but unfortunately we did not. So I think it is important to emphasize the fact that we need to know the exact rates that will be applied across board. According to Kojo Ponkrumah, he thinks that they can't do that now, but they need to know the numbers first. And I was surprised because we've been in power for almost 7.5 years, almost 8 years. You should be able to estimate, do some proper calculation. Tell us, are you going to do 10%, 15%, 12%? Is it across board, or it will be, of course, individuals will pay a bit less and all that. We need to hear all of that so that we don't get surprised and told that, oh, we didn't know there was a bigger hole in the economy, so we probably don't want to do 3%, 10%, or 15%. We need to know all of that. But if you don't have done those estimations, you can't be offering us, promising all kinds of other reliefs, like they promised 1% before that, a reduction in the withholding tax of 1% for small-scale miners. If you start doing that type of, you start giving those type of carrot sticks, you should be able to tell us exactly what you're actually going to give the entire citizenry, having done some extensive work. So for me, it was interesting to hear a lot of the things concerning the private sector, but I think we need some estimation, we need some numbers. That's very important.
I see. How about the areas of energy? Because you have to leave, just to touch on a few of them quickly. Energy and then cost of living. The transportation fares are key in affecting our cost of living. Now he says that he hopes to reduce transportation fares by 30 to 40% with the introduction of electric vehicles. We don't know how many of the electric vehicles we have in all to occasion a reduction of 30 to 40%.
He didn't mention it.
Which is quite,
well,
which
you
is
know,
quite,
the thing about,
30 to
see,
40%,
that's the problem.
which is quite
that's
significant. Which is quite significant. What's your thinking around this?
Well, you know, Bawumia started this conversation at first by saying that he identifies the fact that he has traveled throughout the country and identifies the fact that the cost of living, the high cost of living, jobs, and I think something else were the reasons why people were complaining. Actually, he said those were the topmost things, and I think he hit the nail right on the head. As to the intervention concerning the need for individuals, or should I call it the cost of living, some of these interventions are key and useful, but I think he may be shooting for the stars too much. Look, people need to understand that we need to. I don't doubt, and Kojo Foku may probably disagree with me. I don't doubt the fact that we need to move to the electrical vehicles and all of that. But do you have the infrastructure yet? How many people can hop on such buses? Do you have a proper way of maintaining them? And I think those little things which we don't do in this part of our world is want to come back and bite Bawumia quite well. You know, remember when he promised for other people to be using cars? We haven't had anything on that still. And it's important that he take baby steps to deal with some of these things, I think you should rather draw on the traditional source of energy, other than this what's fixation on the clean energy and what I call the transition element of energy space. It's very important, but I think how many people really can do it? And he has not done the mathematics. Maybe Kojo has done it, but I think to do this on a large scale, to be promising these kinds of things, you must have done your proper homework. I don't know on what basis he's saying it will consume about 30% of their cost. He needs to let us know. But all in all, I think the focus on the private sector makes a lot of sense. I would have wished I had a lot more on how we can get out of the chaos part of his administration actually led us into. And unfortunately, I didn't hear anything like that. So it makes me wonder whether the plan they actually have in place, the private sector side, and whether they're going to deliver social accountable governance and corruption. I don't think the fixation on using digitalization to fight corruption is enough. If there's anything we've heard so far about corruption, I think I get worried a lot more. So these bits and pieces, there are too many things it's also promised. And I think you should I thought they would have just focused on just the levers that will take us out of the current hold of jobs, the private sector. But if you read the manifesto, it's too many things, just so many things. Anyway, the other one that caught my attention, I'll say that and I probably didn't read my last one. I don't know, Kojo, is that true that you are promising the jobs abroad programs and that you want to more or less take our skilled people, train them, take them out of the country, which I probably don't have any problem with at all. But see, two things. One, there are close to probably a million people that will put into poverty, shoved into poverty through your economic decisions. And there are almost 2 million able-bodied people who are looking for jobs as we speak. It is important. Maybe you want to tell us exactly how you're going to go about this jobs program. But while I support it, I also need to remind you that, look, it's an economy that is able to withhold it, so that also matters most of the time. So balance it in building the economy properly. And even when these people go and they send remittances, the economy should be little enough not to decimate their remittances, and also encourage people to save money. So if the exchange rate is high and the interest rates are also high and taxes are killing people, if you send people abroad, whatever they send back would be decimated anyway. So for me, these are some of the few things I found that I thought I should say. I'm sorry, I'm talking to you from a very loudly, noisy place, but I'm in transit. So you can bear with me. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Franklin. We appreciate you. Of course, Dr. Sharif Khalid is online, and Dr. Arthur Kennedy is also online. Of course, I have Kojo Poku in the studio. But Arthur Kennedy is back. Just to conclude with him, I go to Sharif. Then
we need to address some of these things, because if you do that, there's a problem.
What will happen is what will happen is
I've done notes.
What will happen is if one person speaks and I come to you to respond, so let them finish. So just
two have spoken.
No, just make notes. I'll give you time to respond, so that we can appreciate. Because if one person talks, I come to you to respond, then it will be a bit chaotic, you know. So, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. So I was making the point that shouldn't we see Bawumia on the basis of what he has done for himself, or what he has done in terms of what he's been assigned. He says he's been an assistant or a mate. People have issues with that, but that's how he sees his role, and that he does what he's been assigned. And he says he's been the most visible or active vice president in Ghana's history. People think it's true, others think not really. But of course, that is what he says it is. And he's been assigned key things. Digitization, for example. He has quite a number of things to his credit. Gold for oil, the Bank of Ghana gold purchasing program, the NIA or the Ghana card, massive rollout. All these things he credits himself, because he says there are things that he was given direct oversight of. Shouldn't we judge him on the basis of how we've seen him deliver those things, rather than saying that, why couldn't he do those things he's promising now, and now that he's vice president and all of that? How do you reconcile these two viewpoints? Doc, I think you need to unmute. Dr. Arthur Kennedy is
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Sure. Yes.
I am very reluctant to wade into that debate, because I don't want to attack, him, but there are some things that beg responses. Yes, he's assigned a lot of different things, but he's head of the economic management team. The president said repeatedly, 2008, 2012, 2016, that he had brought an economic whiskey to help him revamp the economy and take it to a new level. All what they took it to is back to the IMF and we're back in intensive care. So it is very difficult to take the other promises seriously when what he should have been in charge of and what was said to be his strength judged against his own voluble promises and critiques of the previous administration have not been done. So I am actually skeptical. And like Franklin Kujo said about some of the promises, look, clean energy and electrical vehicles, in the US, they are considered, I don't know about how Ghana, they might make it cheaper. In the US, they are considered far more expensive than traditional vehicles. And already the government has to give people huge subsidies in order for them to purchase, to the extent that in the current US elections, it is one of the issues in which, what do they call it? Trump is promising that these traditional energy sources will continue. So the rest of the world that have a luxury to choose are even struggling because the clean energy things, while they make the environment better, are actually more expensive. And given the fact that we're still struggling to free our economy, it's kind of a little difficult to argue that the best way to revamp a struggling economy is to go to electric vehicles that are actually more expensive. Where would the electricity come from? Our electricity as at now, hydro is the cheapest source and it doesn't supply most of our electricity. We're having to supplement that with petroleum-based energy from our generating plants. So I think that while these goals are a little desirable, they seem like a little too much pie in the sky.
I see. All right. So let me come to Dr. Hang in there. Dr. Sharif Khalid, welcome to the program. Okay, so I understand he's with the NDC there in Winneba. We'll have him join us soon. Could you noted a few points you wanted to respond to? Okay, so go ahead and let's see.
I'm surprised my brother Atta Kennedy sits in the US and talks like that. It's unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. Look, I think if you want to contribute into Ghana's discussion, pay more attention. The discussion of EVs is government that is buying the public buses for public transport. The government is not saying that the individual should buy EV. Yes, EVs are expensive. We know that, the luxury EV cars. But what Dr. Bawumia is promising is that public transport is expensive. The reason public transport is expensive is that the two main components that go into public transport is what? Spare parts and fuel. So the owner of the bus has to buy fuel and has to buy spare parts. And spare parts, every time we hear of the importation and the cost associated with spare parts. Now you have fuel. So if there is a certain percentage, which I have not seen in the manifesto, but let's assume that there is this.
Yes, I mean, he said it many times.
30-40% of the cost. But I mean, the cost of running the transport, right? Fuel and spare parts constitute the majority of your recurring costs. Okay, so if you have EV buses, there's no spare parts, hardly, minimal spare parts. Fuel is zero. It's just only electricity that you're using to charge. And to Mr. Atta Kennedy's notice, we do have the electricity installed to be able to power these electric buses. When he say that, where is the electricity? I'm surprised. Maybe he should keep a bit more tap into what's new happening.
Just to interrogate that, how many buses will be in the system to have
for now, he's saying that there's 100 buses coming in.
Yeah, they haven't even come.
Hold on. He said there's 100 buses ordered. Hopefully, they will arrive before December. So that means the process is gone. So we are just waiting for the arrival of the 100 buses. Now, if we have 100 electric buses in the system today, and bear in mind, there is this tap and go system which the government is doing with the GPRTU. So there's a lot of conversation between GPRTU and government in helping them with mobilization of revenue, how you pay for these public transport. So there's a lot of digitization going on in even how you now get on these buses and pay. And that is being done with the GPRTU. Now, if these 100 buses come in and it's done in cooperative with the various transport unions, okay, it means that you're going to have 100 public buses that can go a long way to reduce the cost of transport. Now, before I even get there, look, there is this conversation of Dr. Bawumia coming in as a wastegate, and yes, the president said that he was going to be in charge. Now, should be in charge, going to be in charge is what the president said. Now, when the president became president, what happened?
Things changed.
100% things changed.
No, but
because,
that was what
hold
he told us.
on. Let me
back to the point that the Kennedy was making. That how do you hold them accountable?
No, you cannot hold the vice president accountable for anything.
No. The man says you put him in charge, and indeed he's the chairman of the economic
management team has no weight in our constitution. Article 76. No, hold on. Let me land.
I know that.
The economic management team, but that's the point.
Which will make up the economic management team? Which will make up the economic management team?
Let me land.
The finance minister, all these guys.
Let me land. The economic management team is only a subcommittee of cabinet.
No.
It is. Why are you saying no?
Wait. There's a subcommittee. Which
it's a subcommittee of cabinet.
No. Which was chaired by Alan Chirmantin.
No.
But we have the real economic management team.
Where is it listed? Tell me. Show me a constitution.
It is not a constitutional creation.
So what is it?
No, but it is something we have come to do. It's a convention.
So what convention?
So
I'm telling you that it's a subcommittee of cabinet.
I know of that. That exists. That was chaired by Alan Chirmantin.
But that is the
my brother.
Are you arguing with me on something that is a norm?
No, but are you telling me today that Dr. Bawumia was never chairman of the economic management team?
He was the chairman of the economic management team.
Was a toothless bulldog.
No, the economic management team is a subcommittee of cabinet. Their proposal.
Who chaired that?
Dr. Bawumia.
No, that was chaired by Alan Chirmantin.
No, the economic management team is chaired by Dr. Bawumia.
No, wait. There's a subcommittee of cabinet.
There are various subcommittees of cabinet.
There's a subcommittee of parliament which deals with the economy.
My brother, there are various subcommittees. No, hold on. There are various subcommittees of cabinet. There are various subcommittees of cabinet. One of them is the economic management team, which is chaired by the vice president. The economic management team has no constitutional mandate, nothing.
Okay.
Everybody who sits in cabinet, including all the subcommittees, help the vice president formulate policies. That's where it ends. Now, if you read the constitution, Article 76 says that there will be a cabinet. That cabinet will be made up of not less than 10 ministers of state and not more than 19, right? Section 2 of that Article 76 goes on to say that these people, the ministers of state, this is what Section 2 says. Section 2 says that the cabinet shall assist the president in the determination of the general policies of the government. Dr. Bawumia sits as an individual in cabinet. Now, whenever cabinet holds meetings, in some time there's a deadlock and it's held to a vote. And the only person who can break that vote is the president. If the president is not so head on that policy, he either lets the vote at the cabinet go or he basically come and veto it. The president, look, there is a saying in America where Lincoln wanted to abolish the slave trade, right? And we have a similar presidential constitution with Americans where the vote was 11-1. 11 people didn't want to abolish didn't want to abolish the slave trade. Lincoln said, okay, 11 of my cabinet ministers have said do not abolish slave trade, but the one, which is me, I'm overruling that. The president, which is Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, sits at cabinet and he can overrule every single thing that comes to cabinet. When there's a vote, Dr. Bawumia has one vote. E-levy is now a public notice, public knowledge that Dr. Bawumia was 100% against e-levy. It was a proposal from the finance minister then, Okeno Ferretta, came to cabinet with the e-levy. He had now convinced all the cabinet ministers that e-levy was the ECOBAM. It was going to help everybody, every sectorial ministers with money, roads, this. We all heard it. We saw all the promises that they made on e-levy because the finance ministry has promised every cabinet minister that, look, if we implement e-levy, you will get the money you need. Dr. Bawumia was the lone voice in cabinet on e-levy. It passed, right? What do you expect him to do? Now, this is just one example. There are countless examples where he is against something in cabinet and cabinet rules it. Okay? Today, let me tell you something. We are bringing back the tolls, right? When the toll was being abolished, he wasn't in support of the tolls being abolished, but the tolls were abolished. Today, it's come back again. So the point we are making is that when people sit on TV, and my brother Arthur Kennedy says that, who's somebody who has actually tried to run for the high office of this party, I'm surprised. Because listen to this. Yes, it's a party that promotes a manifesto, but it's the leader of the flag bearer of the party who becomes president, and his vision. If Dr. Bawumia was not against some of the things that's why he keeps repeating this thing, that I am my own person and I have my own policy. So Ghanaians should look at Dr. Bawumia as an individual who have sat in cabinet, learnt a lot in cabinet, served his boss for the last 8 years, but has his own ideas. Not those ideas. Look, the digitization idea, making Ghana card as part of a lot of things, was something that Nanado wants to do. If things that Nanado doesn't want to do and Dr. Bawumia wants to do it, Nanado will say no, or cabinet will say no. If cabinet doesn't agree, every sector, every cabinet minister brings their proposal to cabinet. And cabinet can say yes or no. So let's not blame Dr. Bawumia to say that, oh, why is he coming with these ideas?
No, but
on the tax issue, let me land on the tax issue.
You are exculpating him from responsibility, collective responsibility.
No, collective responsibility
the economic
is different.
challenges that the country is
collective
facing.
responsibility.
Yeah, but he runs on the record, the good parts of Akufo-Addo's government. Okay, but when it comes to the failures, you are trying to exculpate him from it.
Nobody's saying that. Listen,
because the economic challenges are real.
No, we are not saying. He said, look, you said collective responsibility. He's part of government, so he would be part of the collective responsibility.
Yeah, but he was the guy who
he's saying that do not blame. No, but he said, who told you?
No, but
who told you
Nanado told us, all of us.
So Nanado, go and ask Nanado.
No, he told all of us that he was bringing him because he was the guy with the magic wand.
Before he became president,
yes,
right?
With the magic wand.
And then when he became president, what happened?
And when he became president, when good things came, he attributed a lot of that to the smartness of Dr. Bawumia and sometimes
and the team, yes, exactly. The team, the cabinet, the team that he has.
Yes,
to work
so what are you saying?
So
if it's good, he's mentioned.
What is
but if it's bad, you don't want us to mention.
No. Listen, collective responsibility. Dr. Bawumia will accept collective responsibility, but do not blame him. What people keep saying, which we are all trying to be saying, that why are you saying that? Is that people keep saying that these things that Dr. Bawumia wants to do, why couldn't he do that now? But it's not his government. Section 56 of the Constitution gives the mandate of execution of every policy. The person who is executive president, the president Nanado. So what we are saying is that yes, as part of a government, and people keep saying, oh, why didn't he resign? Why would he resign? What was he brought on to do? He was brought on to assist the president, the person we voted for in 7 December 2020 and 7 December 2016 was Nanado, not Bawumia. So why would he resign? Now,
let me take a short break. You will continue when I come back. Okay. Let me take a short break. So just hold your thoughts. This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM, also on ChannelOne television. My guest this morning, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, former presidential aspirant of the MPP, Franklin Kudjo, President Imani Africa, Kojo Nsafwa Poku, member of the MPP Manifesto Committee, Dr. Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, member of the NDC Economic and Finance Committee, who is in Winneba as we speak, but will join us on Zoom. We'll take a short break. When we come back, Kojo Poku will continue the point he was making. Don't go away. You're welcome back. This is a big issue. We are on 97.3 City FM. We're also on ChannelOne television. You can send us your views and comments on the ongoing discussion via our WhatsApp line 020444 7033 or 0549986996. We'll be happy to hear what you think and share same with the rest of our viewers and audiences across the length and breadth of the country and, of course, globally. We're looking at the matter of the MPP manifesto, dealing with some specific issues. And the matter of the responsibility of the vice president once again has come up. And one of my guests, Dr. Kennedy, thinks that Bawumia should be responsible somewhat for some of the difficulties the country is facing and going through. Kojo Poku in the studio here thinks that Bawumia should not be held responsible because it wasn't his government. He's now seeking to lead his own government. He was making a point before he went for that.
Okay, so the point I'm making is that when you talked about collective responsibility, he is more than happy to raise his hand in the collective. What people keep missing the point is that as much as he's part of a government, that there's a collective responsibility. The Constitution mandates that after 8 years that the president have served, a vice president can also come forward and basically put his ideas forward. He is saying that these are my ideas. But people keep asking the question that, why can he do these things now? Why does he propose them when he becomes president? Article 58 of the Constitution said what? Executive authority in Ghana is vested in one person, the president. He is the final say. So if the president told us that, oh, when I become president, this is my whiz kid, this is my economic guru, this is my economic this is my economic this. When he became president, what transpired? That's the question everybody should ask the president, not Dr. Bawumia. Dr. Bawumia has served, but this is the time that he can now stand up and put up his proposals. And clearly, we have one example of things that he wanted to do, but a cabinet, which is the highest decision body of this country, disagrees with him. And he only has one voice and one vote at cabinet. So please, let every Ghanaian listening to us, let's put aside, because look, it's beginning to be the NDC propaganda that stops the good things, because everybody reads the good things that Bawumia wants to do, and then everybody now goes that, oh, these are good things, but why can't he do them now? He can't do them now because he's not president. So if you admit they are good things, please vote for Dr. Bawumia in 7 December. But let me put this, look, there is an issue that
give me a lot of time, I want to move on.
No, that's fine. There's a lot of issue. There's one big issue that everybody keeps talking about. Franklin talked about the tax, the flat rate of tax. What Dr. Bawumia intends to do is to overhaul our tax system. It has never been done. Now, the reason you can't give numbers, and this is the reason why it's difficult to give numbers now. In 2017, we only had 1.5 million people with TIN numbers. When we decided to use the Ghana card as our TIN, so your Ghana card number became your TIN number, straight away we now have 18 million people with tax identification numbers.
What has been the effect of that on the revenue?
That is a forward-looking conversation, not now. The revenue, the conversation.
But since when did this happen? About 3 years ago. In fact, about 5 or 6 years ago.
That is why, you know.
About 5 or 6 years ago. And we're still forward looking.
No. What I am talking about, my brother, you see, I'm not part of government. I'm part of Dr. Bawumia's team.
Yes.
I'm telling you what the manifesto talks about and what will happen when Dr. is president.
The unique challenge you have is that you have to address the issues of the past and then look forward.
No, but
because your
candidate issue is being addressed.
Your candidate is incumbent, so you need to tell us.
No, he's not incumbent. You see, you are taking back. You say you don't have time.
No, he's incumbent. He's in government.
Yes, but the policy he was.
He's part of the incumbent government. So he needs to account to us what they did with the power, whether collective or individual, and win our confidence or trust.
It looks like you don't want to move on from that conversation.
No,
we already have that conversation.
It's the basis.
It is not the basis.
It's the basis.
It's not. You want to be the basis.
Excuse me. Now you're talking about Ghana card and TIN numbers.
I'm talking about TIN. I'm talking about taxes.
Yes, Ghana card, TIN numbers. And I'm saying Franklin, that this happened about 5-6 years ago.
I'm not going to let you draw me back to that.
5-6 years ago. What has been the impact on our revenue generation? I'm not going to let you draw me back. And you're saying that is forward looking.
The policy
and I'm saying that 5-6 years is quite a long time for us to see some impact.
Are we here to talk about the Dr. Bawumia manifesto or talk about?
No, but we can't talk about the manifesto without his work he's done in the past. Because it is based on that we know he can do.
What work?
No, but he was vice president.
But my brother, we just explained that the vice president only has one vote in cabinet.
No,
the person who directs VRE, hold on. The person who directs VRE to do their work is not Dr. Bawumia. The person who directs VRE to do their work is the president.
No, what I'm saying is that you're talking about the Ghana card, becoming
but I was making a point. You will not even make me make my point.
Wait, I'm coming. Becoming a TIN number, okay? And this happened some 6 years ago.
No,
Bawumia takes credit for that.
No, hold on.
Bawumia takes credit for that.
The Ghana card becomes hold on. Let me please explain this to you. The Ghana card becomes the TIN number. What do you do with it, right?
But TIN number, what do you do with TIN number?
Yes, it's up to GRA. Hold on, it's up to GRA to basically now identify all the people who have tax identification numbers and basically go after them to basically file their personal income tax. That is what TIN numbers are for. Is it being done? No. Why is it not being done? Because our tax system now is cumbersome. The various brackets of taxes is cumbersome. How do you even do that identification? The assessment of income tax, the personal income tax assessment form, when it's given to you today, is cumbersome. Most people don't even understand how that form works. So Dr. Bawumia is saying that, look, moving forward, we have over 18 million people with tax identification number. We're going to do a flat rate for everybody yearly to pay us tax. So now, not only are you going to give somebody a form today, what happens today is that the GRA person has to bring you a form, you fill the form, and you go for an interview, in-person interview, to determine what you owe GRA. Dr. Bawumia is saying that it's cumbersome. Ghanaians, most people don't understand that process. So what I want to do, having that Ghana card number as your tax identification number, straight away we have over 80 million people in the tax bracket. So what I will do when I'm president is that I'm going to do like what they do in the churches, give a flat rate of personal income tax to everybody to pay yearly. That's what he wants to do.
Very well. No, you've been, so, Doc,
you not let me finish my point.
Wait, you've been talking for a while.
Oh, my brother, but you interjected me more than 10 times.
You're here with me, so don't worry. Dr. Kennedy is dying to make a point, but Doc, just hold your fire. I'll come to you. Dr. Sharif Khalid, welcome to the program. I know you are at your manifesto launch. So much excitement there. We'll talk about that a bit a bit later in the show. But
Sharif wants me to speak first.
Yes. Who? Dr. Sharif hasn't spoken. So the MPP launched a manifesto last week. We've seen a lot of the things they have said: the economy, digitization, power, etc. For you, what stood out for you?
I mean, it's quite difficult to ask what stood out for me because that's a very difficult question to answer. I'm juxtaposing this to their 2016 and 2020 manifestos to move from a very grand promises of $1 million, one constituency, one village, one dam, and all of those grandiose promises to very granular issues of digitalization, which in and of itself is not the actual fiber and infrastructure that is being laid to have a proper national digitalization program is quite worrying. Then again, the issue of the functionality of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia as economic management team, I've seen a lot of defenses that have been put out for it. I mean, governance, as you would see, runs on conventions. And Nana Addo, on becoming president, was very conventional in establishing the fact that, look, I'm a constitutional lawyer. I'm a human rights activist. I don't have economic forte. So I'm ceding this responsibility to a man who he labels an economic wizard, who's worked at the central bank and claims the money is there to run the economy. And today, what kind of an economy do we have? A central bank posting losses, domestic debt exchange, external debt exchange, among all of these issues. And if we have such a man leading a manifesto and promising all of these issues, is it something to stand out for in this regard? Now, let me take two flagship issues that we've been having, or my co-panelists are having in studio. Talking about flat rate taxation. It's as though they don't even comprehend it well. And even the man leading the charge in and of itself, how is flat rate taxation fit for purpose for the quasi informal sector we still have in Ghana, where you have, tax bracket registration an issue? For example, they often throw us to an Estonian example. Estonia has a population of 1.3 million people. Juxtapose that to a population of 30 plus, heading to 40 million people. Estonia exists within a matured economic unit, which is the European Union. We are within ECOWAS, where we don't have even synchronization of issues of taxation. So how is this going to be effective? In any case, he talks again about tax amnesty. And again, I wonder what he means by tax amnesty, because tax amnesty in and of itself has a disincentive if you don't implement it very well, because you have recalcitrant taxpayers on one bracket and those that are honest enough to honor their taxes. Now, when you introduce tax amnesty and it is not introduced properly, what it means is that it becomes disincentive to those that were already honoring their tax obligations. So now, what does the data speak to? How many people are within the tax brackets that need or is calling for tax amnesty, as opposed to those that are already honoring their taxes? So I think that a lot of thought has not been going into it, and everything is still being thrown about willy-nilly. We are giving credit of digitalization. Issues of Ghana cards and what have you are being thrown all over the place. Can we specifically pinpoint to the initiative or single-handed initiative Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia made to the implementation of these policies? But why is it that each time we come to issues of digitalization, it's a carte blanche for him? When it comes to economic management, he was not in charge. Cabinet was in charge and he has only one vote. Where are we going with this debate?
I see. But the cost of living has been one that a lot of people care about. And of course, we all care about that. And he is talking about upscaling the production of staple foods. We talk about food
Yes.
inflation. If we have
Okay.
fruits, we'll be happy. They recently,
And how
the
is-
government launched the DRIP program, and one of the things they told us is that the DRIP program will help deal with bad roads in the food growing area so that food can come to the city centers better, and then the cost of that will reduce. So that will be great. They will be upscaling the production of staple foods as well. They said they will be investing in the preservation of staple foods, meat, poultry, fish products, etc. There will be abundance of food. Food inflation will come down. We will eat. We will be happy. Now, cost of living, transportation fares. He is talking about promoting and supporting EV vehicles for public transportation. And indeed, in his engagements, he has talked about 30 to 40% possible reduction in the cost of transportation because of electric vehicles. Talking about expanding the Good for Oil program also to continue stabilizing the price of fuel. So you see, there are major cost centers that affect the consumer. Cost of fuel is one, and he's dealing with that with the EVs, which are public vehicles that he will bring into the country. Indeed, it says about 100 of them are on their way, and he hopes that before December or by close of December, they will come. Good for Oil program is on, stabilizing the price of fuel, etc. And now he's talking about stabilizing the price of spare parts through the flat rate for all importers. And that's appeared that Abosokan guys are quite happy with that. And making, I'll deal with the driver's license issue later. But all these things, if properly implemented, will make the cost of living better or reduce the cost of living, and we'll be happy in this country. And are you saying that these are not achievable? Is that the point you are seeking to make?
No, I mean, Salom, if we're talking about EV vehicles, that's a massive infrastructure we're talking about, right? What existence of infrastructure do we have as of now to shoulder a long-term EV vehicle revolution that can have tremendous impact on the economy as you stipulate? To be effective enough to have effect on the prices of fuel at the pump. Because you need charging units, right? You need a massive infrastructure and even education to have this before even importing vehicles. So the importation of 100 vehicles in and of itself is not a signal that this is achievable.
It's a
in any
beginning.
case, there are a couple of people, sorry?
It's just a beginning.
Not a beginning of what? But you build infrastructure before you do that. So what is the existing infrastructure as far as EVs are concerned in terms of charging terminals, among other issues? Where are they? That's a fundamental question we need to be asking ourselves. So, and this is going to be a long-term process. And to even have such a grand scheme have an impact, on average, it will take 5 to 8 years before it can yield any significant impact. So if you are gauging that at fuel cost prices, I'm wondering again, what thought process went into this such a flagship project? In any case, we're in this country, when ministries or the Ministry of Agriculture started selling plantain at the ministry to make a case for food subsidization, among other issues. Are these the kind of issues or initiatives that can stabilize food prices? Did you see the last government statistician's report on poverty levels, food inflation, among other issues? So the economy has been run amok, and we're just firefighting and throwing promises all over the place. But now is the time for them to actually come out with real revolutionary promises. For me, I found the manifesto as a knee-jerk response to the NDC's initiatives they've been having all around. President Mahama stipulated
How
that he's
so?
going to
I
have
mean,
60 ministers.
these ideas
No,
Dr.
I'll give you
Bawumia
a
has
classic
spoken
example.
about many times.
No, I'll give you a classic
Gold for
example.
oil to be
President
strengthened
Mahama
is something he's doing
stipulated-
already. I mean, the gold
Let me
purchase
tell you,
program
President
he's
Mahama
talking
stipulated-
about to be strengthened,
President Mahama
he's doing
stipulated
already.
He's going to have 60 ministers. All of a sudden, he's up saying he would have 50. When you are within a cabinet, right, that has staffers numbering thousands and ministers in the hundreds.
But
Where's
Dr. Sharif,
the
Dr. Khalid, what can he do about that? He is not a guy with a cane. The guy with a cane is his boss. If his boss decides to have 112 or 120 ministers like we saw in the first term, well, he can only advise. If the man says he won't take it, he won't take it. But now
So
if
can
he
we
gets
have
the mandate,
evidence of his advice?
if
So do
he
we have
has,
evidence of his
no,
advice?
but we don't do that here. You know, if
How-
he's
how
told
do
his
you not do
boss,
that?
no, but he wants him to put out
You have
his.
vice presidents
Wait.
that have clearly stated their position, and
wait.
some have even resigned.
But
over such
he's
issues
part
in
of a
this
team.
country.
He's
And
part
we
of
don't
a
have
team.
such history.
His boss told us from the beginning that the difficulty
we don't have such history.
the difficulty he encountered was so huge that he needed the numbers to help deal with it. And so that was it. Whether he disagreed with him or not, we don't know. But that is his boss's decision. He doesn't have that. He's saying that if you give me the mandate, I will just take 50 ministers. And he has also gone ahead to tell us how he hopes to reduce the cost of government, by, 30 billion, 3% GDP, dedicating that to the private sector and all of that. That goes off the books of government. Given the opportunity, that is what he can do. He cannot be held responsible for the ills of his boss. His boss is the one with executive power. What do you say to that? Hello, Dr. Sharif? Khalid? Can you hear me? I think he's frozen. I mean, challenges of the internet. I'm sure things will get better soon. So we'll get him back. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, if you're hearing me, I know you were itching to make a point. Let me hear you now, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Nsafwa makes some unfortunate points. First, he should go and read up again on Lincoln's biography. There were not 11 people against. There were not even 11 people in the room. There were only 6 at that time. So he should go and check up on his Lincoln biography. Let's talk about the electric vehicles. You see, the U.S. uses public transportation powered by gas. And as at now, nobody is thinking of putting batteries on public buses because for now, they are not considered cheap. Actually, gas-powered is cheaper. And nobody, even in the West, thinks that electric vehicles will be cheaper. And not only that, the NDC gentleman makes a very good point. If you don't have battery charging stations, you can run electric battery-powered buses. So it's as usual, we're doing the same things that we do again and again. We make flashy promises, we invest public resources in them, then we abandon them. And effectively, when we do that, we cause some financial loss to the state. And as far as Dr. Bawumia is concerned, I am sad that I am forced to come back to this doctrine of collective responsibility. In 2008, a lot of people don't know this. I urged Nana to disagree publicly with some MPP government policies because I told him that will show the public that he will run a different government. You know what he said? He studiously refused to do that. He says, Doc, I am part of this government. I cannot go and disagree with the government in public. He disagreed with me in doing that, but that was very admirable. I think that Dr. Bawumia can't have it both ways. You can't be the most consequential vice president in history. And by the way, part of being the cabinet is wielding influence within the cabinet. You need to be able to persuade your boss who trusted you enough to make you his waistcoat partner, so that when you have good policies, you adopt them. So if you can persuade him, maybe that is a confession of your own impotence. And by the way, to Mr. Nsafwa, cabinet is not the highest decision-making body in the polity. It is parliament. Whatever parliament agrees on, they need to take it to whatever the cabinet agrees on. They need to take it to the parliament.
No, he's talking about the executive, so, the highest decision-making body of the executive. The executive. He's talking about the executive.
Actually, that is the president. You yourself said that. The cabinet is actually advisory. The cabinet is the highest decision-making body of the executive in the prime ministerial system that is run by Britain and other countries. In presidential systems like Ghana and US, as Mr. Nsafwa himself points out, the cabinet is advisory to the president. That part he got right. But my point is that you can't have it both ways. You can't go around saying and have your colleagues like Yao Safo Mafo, the president himself and others, lauding you as the most consequential vice president in history. And then when it comes to policies that didn't work, all of a sudden, oh, you were against them, you didn't have any power. It's unseemly. And that doesn't make you seem like a team player. You see, part of the reason why vice presidents have difficulty winning elections in most parts of the world, including the US, is the idea that you are judged on the performance of the government you are part of. So, for example, in the US, to those of you who are listening, since Martin Van Buren did it in 1836, George H.W. Bush was the first incumbent vice president to be elected directly to the presidency. It is difficult because if your government is seen as a failure, it is very difficult for you to succeed, So Ghanaians are going to look at whether they like the performance of the Nana Addo government or not. If they like it, then of course, the candidate of the party and Nana Addo, who is Dr. Bawumia, has a very good chance of being elected. Ghanaians are not going to buy the malarkey that somebody was the most influential vice president in history, but he had no influence in the government when things were going wrong. Nobody believes that.
I see. Do you have Dr. Sharif back, Dr. Sharif Khalid back? Dr. Sharif, if you are there, just to conclude your points, then we come in studio and deal with Kojo Poku. Okay, it's not. Yeah. So
well, let me make a quick point.
Yes, Dr. Kennedy makes some points.
My brother Atta Kennedy said something that in the U.S. Look, when a president fails, people tend to make it look like it's the failure of a president that extends to the vice president. So the vice president cannot take himself out of it. Clinton was the most successful president in the U.S. Right? Al Gore, what happened to him?
But the Al Gore election was a bit...
It's not an exemption. Why are you saying it's a bit what? No, hold on. No, let's stay on... My brother,
he lost the election.
Let me make my point. My point is that people do not, you see, and whether success or failure, people do not extend it to the vice president. Because in terms when there are failures of the president, yes, vice presidents have probably not succeeded. But when there were successes, the vice president did not succeed either. Clinton was one of the most successful presidents in America. Al Gore lost the election. Why was that? Because people did not believe that he was part of the success. People did not believe that the Clinton work was him. So why do we now want to make it look like the failure is the vice president? Look, let's move on from that vice president. Look, the good people of Ghana, I think by God's grace, we've been able to explain to the good people of Ghana that Dr. Bawumia is his own person, he has his own policy. But let me make this point quickly. Look, when my brother from the NDC says that there are no charging units for EV, his own leader, former President Mahama, has a video out there brandishing his EV car and charging it in his house.
No, but if you're bringing commercial vehicles...
Yes, but what does it take to put up charging units?
No, but that is not...
But the point is that, my brother, listen, it's not going to the moon. Creating charging units is not...
So
everywhere there is electricity today. There are over a lot, I don't know the number, but it's a lot of people with EV cars in Ghana. And they have charging units in their house.
With the charging
units. Not, yes, but my point to you, I'm trying to get across to you.
It's not rocket science.
It is not rocket science.
Yeah, but
if the cars are in, hold on, when the cars are in, we will put the charging units. It's not something that somebody's going to say, where would it be? It doesn't take 2 days to put up charging units. Wherever there's electricity, you can put a charging unit. If it means that we have electricity poles all over the country. And you know what? These buses are going to run in inner city, right? So if it needs to go back to the workshop to charge, those are the mechanisms that implementation will look at. For people to start flogging that thing that, there are no charging units, so 100 EV buses, when the former president in his house is flogging EV cars to show off his plugging unit, and you are sitting on here telling me that there are no charging units in Ghana. Where did former President Mahama get his charging unit from? Look, let me make this point. The NDC today, they are going to launch their manifesto. What are they calling it? Resetting Ghana. What are they going to reset? What do you reset in this world? They have no ideas. The reason they have no ideas is
why. Are you happy about the trajectory of the country? The trajectory of the country.
The trajectory of the country.
My brother, the Afrobarometer says 9 out of 10 people
that's one
say that the country is headed the wrong direction.
That is 1 out of what?
9 out of 10 people say the country is headed the wrong direction.
I don't believe that.
No,
that's them. I don't believe that.
No, but that's
Well, that's fine. Afrobarometer doesn't speak the rest of Ghanaians. No, it's not.
Widely credible.
It is not. Let me move on with my submission. You keep interjecting me. Let me move on. Listen to this. When Dr. Bawumia makes his bold solutions for Ghana and promised to cut revenue by 30 billion, the NDC, with their resetting agenda or resetting Ghana, is promising the big push to spend $60 billion on infrastructure. Are you serious? That's your big idea, that you want to come in this Ghana and borrow 60 billion from where? To the big push. That's their idea. That's one of their big push, right? They are not in touch with reality. There's no way you can borrow 60 billion in this world today. To do what? Now, you talk about all the other policies, but one of the things that Ghanaians listening to us today should be mindful of that, when the NDC talk about reset, What they have set their eyes on is the cancellation of the free senior high school. That's the only thing.
They said no.
I don't care what they say. Look,
no, we don't care what they say.
I don't care what
we take them for what they say.
No, but look, I'm taking them for what they say because today, when they launched their manifesto is called Resetting Ghana. What are you resetting?
No, you're resetting
when
the
you
bad
reset
things.
no, they didn't say that. Resetting Ghana. That's what they said.
So they are resetting Ghana to the negative.
When you, my brother, look, words means a lot. Words. Look, if you listen, nipeti, unim de shape. It's their words that you can judge them by. You can tell me all the sweet things to want to convince the voter, but when your bold theme for your manifesto is resetting Ghana, what are you resetting?
See,
it means you want to go back to factory default. Hold on. Factory default for NDC is 2016. So everybody watching us today should.
But was 2016
let me land
bad?
now.
Wait. No, you see, you keep raising controversial things.
How's that? But
Wait.
that is the point.
Yes, and when I want to interrogate you on that, then you say I should let you talk.
But let me land and interrogate
was
it.
2016 bad?
Well, I'm not. Look, I'm not here. But brother, you see, let me land before you ask your question. There has been a lot that has transpired. But brother, please.
Look at all the indicators.
This government, listen, in every sector, and that is why Dr. Bawumia said, John Mahama, debate me.
No, but
in every sector, this government has performed the NDC. In every sector. In every single sector.
What is the overall effect on the citizen now?
That is the problem. But you see, the overall effect on the citizen is a different conversation.
Really?
Because
you're doing all of that for the citizen.
No. My brother, listen. We are not a microcosm of the world. We are not an island on our own. So there are other external effects. I'm not even going to divert through there. Look, there are other external effects.
Like what?
Disruption of the supply chain around the world.
As a result of COVID.
And all that. But brother, don't take me into areas because I want to make my point. Listen, in every sector of this economy, right? Name sector by sector, in education, in health, in infrastructure, in energy, in the MPP government, the Nanado Dr. Bawumia government has outperformed the NDC. Now let's move on. What I'm trying to say to you is that if you say reset, you have to have a point where you want to go to. With my phone, if I reset my phone, I go to factory default, right? Now, if I reset my phone and it goes to factory default, to NDC, factory default is 2016. So Ghanaians watching us today...
What happened in 2016?
No, hold on. So Ghanaians watching us today, what you have to know is that when the NDC launched their manifesto and you see resetting Ghana, the first thing that should come into your mind is that every good thing that you are enjoying today, including, and the one thing they've set their eyes on is the free senior high school which they want to cancel.
But that's not factual.
They've said several times they want to cancel it. I don't know where they've said they won't cancel it. Tell me where
they said many times.
They've not
in
said
their
many
youth
times.
manifesto.
They have not said, what did they say?
In their youth manifesto, I'm digging it out for you.
Okay.
But in their youth manifesto, they said they won't cancel
when
it.
they had an attempt to say that they brought it, right? They had an attempt to say that they brought free senior high school. When the good people of Ghana rejected that idea of copycat, right? Now, today, they now say that, resetting Ghana. I don't care what anybody says. My point to the good people of Ghana today is that when somebody says resetting Ghana, NDC's idea of resetting Ghana.
This is what they said about free SHS.
Let me land before you do that.
You're challenging me to pull it out. They said improve secondary education by ensuring sustainable funding source for the free senior high schools education. Okay. And so that's for the free senior high school. So,
did they say they will not cancel it?
Listen.
Did they say we will not cancel it?
Listen to me. Said extend free SHS to cover students in private senior high school. How do you cancel something and extend it?
Hold on. Did they make a statement that they will not cancel it?
No, we said they will extend it.
No,
if they will extend it, how does that mean you cancel it?
NDC make a statement that they will not cancel it.
They shouldn't say that. They said they will not. They said they will extend it.
Listen to me. The NDC, former President John Mahama and his colleagues have constantly made utterances that suggest that they want to cancel free senior high school.
Very well.
It might be politics, it might be anything you want to say, but when you have your theme of your manifesto, resetting Ghana, what you are resetting is all the good things that is going on today, you want to take it away. So everybody watching us today, if you got good things, interoperability, you're able to do a lot on your mobile phones, they want to cancel it. All the things you want to do, you're able to sit at home and do all the online stuff. They are not happy with that. They want to reset it.
Let me show you something. Let me even digress a bit and show you something in the great transformational plan of the movement for change. Who is movement for change?
But
Alan.
we're talking about this.
No. I'm telling you something about the resetting agenda.
Which is what?
Alan, in chapter 6 of his manifesto or the great transformational plan, talked about the behavioral and mindset change That is part of resetting.
You see, my brother.
Okay, that is part of
one
resetting.
One of the things that I don't like about you journalists.
People think that.
And let me say that. Look, don't read meanings into what people say until they say it. Please.
But this is what they are saying.
But this is not. No. So this is Alan. This is Alan.
I am not saying it. This is a document. It's also part of the election. It's part of the election.
But why?
I just read out to you what the NDC manifesto has said.
Why are you reading what Alan said to explain what NDC said?
I'm telling you that
I'm not talking about the reform agenda.
What is a real issue?
No, but nobody has said that reset means you are inferring. You are inferring that what Alan has read means
but that's what it is here.
No,
that's
what
not.
It is. You are inferring that.
Let me wait. We've been talking for a long time. I hope you know, sir, I've not given you time.
No, you have not, because I've not even talking about managing manifesto. Managing manifesto is what I need to talk about.
I know you do with that. Dr. Sharif, of course, Prof is on the line as well. You are making a point when you got frozen out. Make that point. I was trying to say that Bawumia on its own has done quite some. Dr. Sharif is not on. All right.
His phone is being reset, so you come.
So Prof, Professor William of the University of Cape Coast, Professor William Brafo Nsedu, Head of Data Science and Economic Policy at UCC. You're welcome to the program. The MPP manifesto is promised a lot of things about digitization and etc. and how this will help improve the economy. Digitization cannot be taken in isolation, but the criticism is that a lot of the things have been hinged on this, which does appear as if digitization succeeds, everything else succeeds. Is that the view you get, or what do you say to that? Hello, Prof. If you can hear me, you may want to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, you are on.
Yeah. You were talking about digitization. It's a good thing. You know, in this era where there is widespread application or adoption of digital tools, you know, almost every sector of the economy. You can't sit back and say, I'm waiting. I mean, you must also keep abreast with time. But the adoption of digital tools alone wouldn't bring you development. There are so many things you have to do. We're talking about infrastructure. We are talking about creating an enabling environment for private businesses and private investors to do what is expected of them. So yes, digitization, that is wonderful. But it's not all about it. You have to think about formulating and implementing good policy. So
for example, digitizing the ports, we are told, has improved revenue mobilization. It has cut down corruption a bit. We are told also that the payroll digitization is weeding out what we call ghost names, etc., using the Ghana card verification and all of that, weeding out ghost names, etc. That is cutting out waste and quite a number of other things that digitization will do. So clearly, if it is well implemented, which it does appear is what is happening, the state or the country stands to gain a lot, and monies recovered or otherwise that would have gone into corruption would be channeled to other parts of the economy to create the jobs and do the other things, infrastructure, etc., that we've always been looking for. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct. Mind you, it's not just about cutting down on wastages, but we also want to, block every leakage in terms of your revenues that you're supposed to get, you're supposed to mobilize. You know, we have we talk about taxation, and we always complain that we aren't doing enough in terms of domestic revenue mobilization. How do you improve on that? We want to improve on tax compliance. We want to reduce leakages so that we can enhance revenue mobilization. Look at the extent to which we've been borrowing. Look at the extent we get up every morning and all we think about is where can we get funds to finance our ambitious development projects. So yes, the use of digital tools will definitely help us to improve efficiency, remove or reduce corruption, or the possibility or the tendency for persons to engage in corrupt deals, things that wouldn't help us to make good use, judicious use of the resources that we have in the country. I mean, you think about domestic debt exchange, external debt exchange. Why have we come this far? At the end of the day, if we are able to improve on resources, we are able to generate resources from within, revenues from within, we reduce our dependency and the extent to which we become vulnerable. And the use of digital, just as I said, using digital tools applies to every sector of the economy. In the services sector, yes, even in agriculture. I know there are moves or initiatives to help modernize. We are talking about agriculture modernization. We are talking about agriculture-related activities, agro-based industries, agro-processing, agri-services, and all that. Digital is just a tool that would help us enhance, improve on efficiency in the things that we do. That is it. But it's not everything.
I see. So
digitalization is not everything.
Great. Now the manifesto, as it is focused heavily on jobs and boosting the private sector. What, in your view, should they do, or how differently should the management of the economy be from what we've seen in the last 8 years to be able to churn out these jobs that they are promising?
You know, when we talk about job, I mean, we've been talking about job creation since when? We want the youth to get jobs, find jobs to do. We're now talking about the youth becoming skillful, knowing how to do things on their own, starting businesses on their own. But we all know what is happening. You tell them they should have their own startup capital. But how much will they need to start what they are? Their own vision. They want to do something. Look at the way they get frustrated. Somebody wants to start business on his own or her own and can't access capital, or even if there is capital or there is credit, it's at such a high cost, right? So yes, we have to make the youth employable. And in mind, it's not just about the youth. We're talking about other marginalized groups, women. And we know that in our traditional setting, women are still underprivileged in some certain sectors of the economy, right? We talk about other marginalized groups. So we have a lot to do. It's not just about talking about creating jobs.
Talking about jobs creation and SMEs taking loans, etc., and you say the conditions are tough. How does the idea of the introduction of the SME bank sound to you? That is to address a problem you have just cited about access to credit. The SME bank, they say, will help create SME jobs and sustain SME jobs. How does that idea sound to you?
If only it wouldn't be mad with politics. If people wouldn't get up and say that, hey, give to my people. If you don't give to my people, I wouldn't make things work.
I see. The issue about...
right?
Yes.
Yes, fine. He said you want to have a specialized, financing businesses, micro businesses, small scale or small size businesses. That is wonderful. You want them to have access to credit, affordable credit. That is wonderful. But just as I'm saying, if at the end of the day, it doesn't get interfered with by the same people who say that we should come up with this nice, wonderful idea, what haven't we seen happening in the past? Is this the first time we are thinking about specialized funding? It's not the first time.
I see. Finally, Doug.
So if it's not mad, if it's not interfered with, then it's good.
I see. Finally, before you go, the NDC launches manifesto today. What specifically do you think it should be addressing on the economy, really, to revive it?
You know, I reviewed the document, the MPP manifesto, and one of the things that I saw missing was our cocoa industry. Nothing was. Yes, we know something is being done. Cocoa board is being undergoing reforms, but we are talking about when the new persons come to power, when the one who says he's the mate and not the driver, when he takes over the helms of administration, if we vote him in, is he going to continue with the reforms at Cocoa Board? If he's going to continue, how is he going to make things work better? Nothing was mentioned. So one of the things we will be expecting NDC to talk about is the cocoa industry. At the end of the day, we are talking about improving on the export sector. We should be able to generate as much foreign exchange. We should be able to strengthen our production base so that we become more competitive internationally. Why are we, complaining about exchange rate depreciation, not only depreciating, but highly volatile, so unpredictable? It's because of the structure of our production. You know, every other thing that we do is temporary. It's temporary. When Bank of Ghana comes out to release from its reserves, it's only a temporary measure. It doesn't last. When you are able to manage the behavior of speculators, it's only a temporary measure. What are we doing in the medium to long term to solve some of these problems that we have? So cocoa industry is one of the things we want to hear them talk about.
I see. Great. Thanks so much, Prof. Pleasure having you on today, and hope to speak to you soon, some other time. Thank you so much. Professor William Brafo Nsedu is the head of data science and economic policy at the University of Cape Coast. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, talk to me about jobs. In 2016, the manifesto clearly was about job creation, etc. 8 years on, the same focus and even more appears to be on jobs. A number of things have been listed, still in the space of digitization, training 1 million young people with digital skills, improving, afforestation, a whole lot of things to power jobs. And more critically, the empowerment of the private sector to do what it has to do. When the private sector is strong, jobs are created, which is what we know. So talk to us about the manifesto's intent of creating jobs and what premium you place on that.
Yeah, job creation obviously is central to our economic revival. The problem, though, as some of your panelists have alluded to, is that we don't do things cleanly. Corruption is at the core of most of the things we do. Remember, you talked about SME, banks, and other things. The problem is that those distribution of those resources will be tainted by politics. People will give it to their cronies, they won't pay the loans, and to go bankrupt the same way that we did microfinance in the past, distributing it to party functionaries, the same way we handled COVID money, giving it to party functionaries. That is the problem. The enduring economic principle is that governments don't create jobs. They only create enabling environments for the private sector to create jobs. So whether you go to planting food for jobs and all that kind of thing, whenever it is the government doing it, it is inefficient in doing it. So it needs to stick to the fundamentals and be neutral and not pick winners and losers. Even while we talk about revenue mobilization, a lot of Ghanaians know that people have gone to parliament for tax waivers. And most of the people who've gotten big tax waivers for import and other businesses have been cronies of people in government. So until we effectively sanitize our governance process and there is accountability, we're never going to go anywhere, because the most inefficient thing we do is corruption, which picks incompetent winners, punish honest people because of politics, closes the banks of people we don't like, which cost the whole system money. So when people come and say, yes, we're going to check corruption, technology alone won't check corruption. There's people who at the core who check corruption. If people are corrupt and you give them technology, they will steal money at a more efficient rate. So at the end of the day, the question is whether our systems of governance can hold people accountable. So when people come and say they're going to transform the system and all that, look at their own lives. Have they been corrupt? Have they become unaccountably wealthy? Have they put their relatives and cronies in government? If they've done that in the past, they're going to do that in the future. Those are the things holding us back. We used a very basic economic system, and in cocoa growth, we topped the world repeatedly using small-scale farmers. So it is not as if we need technology, and as usual, we are doing the same things we do. While we are polluting our rivers with galamsey and others, we're talking about using EV vehicles because it reduces global warming and it's best for the environment. Why can't we do the basics that are right in front of us?
I see. That's quite interesting. Okay, is Dr. Sharif on now? Doc. Okay, so we don't have him. Could you talk to me about jobs? And I want us to quickly end on Galamsey.
Well, let me go to my point, because I've been reacting to the things that you're saying, and I've not been able to make my submission on
energy. I'll give you 5 minutes on energy.
Yes, let me.
So deal with jobs for me.
Jobs is the cost of living, right? Cost of living is in this manifesto. One of the things that you realize is that every policy links up to how the job creation happens. So in every policy that we have, like the big agenda of introducing 2,000 megawatts of solar, right, which will go to reduce the cost of living, because you know now the cost of gas is about 50% of what we pay in terms of our electricity bill. Now 73% of our generation is thermal, right? And the gas used in powering these thermal plants from the IPPs is really high. So Dr. Bawumia's push to bring 2,000 megawatts of solar will bring down the cost of electricity and basically also help reduce the cost of living, because you know electricity affects everybody. So if we're able to reduce the cost of electricity by introducing the big solar in our energy mix, then we are able to reduce standard of living.
So in 8 years, it's been able to just add about 134 megawatts to our solar.
You know, you keep taking me back to that conversation, and I don't want to have that conversation.
We learn from the past.
No. So don't do that.
No,
don't
so
do that. We are talking about a manifesto for Dr. Bawumia going forward. If you talk about he has not added anything,
I need clarity.
That takes me back to the conversation of he's not president. So we don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah, but it
really doesn't help me push the manifesto that we are reading.
No,
because you come and say that in 3, in 4, in 7 years, Nana Addo Dankwa is president. Nana Addo Dankwa in 7 years has done what you're about to say. Dr. Bawumia is saying that if you make me president, I will add 2,000 megawatts in 4 years.
Yeah, so give me clarity. You should relax. Give me clarity. How many megawatts of solar? You said it, but I just want to hear it again.
2,000 megawatts of solar.
Of solar, 2,000?
Yes, 2,000 megawatts of solar. That's the policy.
Okay, but I'm saying that it's interesting because in 8 years, almost 7 years, we've seen an addition of only 134 megawatts. So you need to convince me that he's able to do it this way, that way, that way.
Okay, so let me tell you, if you want to know how the implementation was done, I'll get there. But let me, like I said, you keep distracting me on my. No. You see, in the energy sector is one of the biggest sector in the country, right? Fuel affects everybody. Electricity affects everybody. With the goal for oil, we want to expand that to basically help make sure that we stabilize the cost of petroleum products. And with the expansion of the gold for oil, it will also help stabilize the currency, and it will probably push down the cost of fuel. But let me come on to the issue of the 2,000 megawatts. There are various programs that we've envisaged to come into force. There is the off-grid policy, which is we want to do 100% electrification by 2028. So rural communities that don't have electricity today, instead of extending the existing power lines to them, we will create off-grid solutions and basically build them solar to power these communities. Secondly, we have the on-grid ones. So we'll probably do up to about maybe 500, 600 megawatts on the grid. Okay, so those ones will look for huge tracts of land in the northern part of the country to basically put up these solar farms. But the good thing about the solar farms that we propose is that we know that these 600 megawatts of solar will be competing with land space for agriculture as well. So we will elevate the solar panels so that low crop cultivation can happen on the same land where the solars are. So we're going to have...
They won't have access to sun.
They will have access to sunlight. Sunlight doesn't need to have a direct impact. Sun is sun. So the low crops, there are some cabbages and all these crops that doesn't need to grow tall. Okay,
but the panels will cover.
The panels is slanted. So that will leave that to the technical people. It's being piloted all around the world, and there are land where they are doing multi-use, where it's farmlands, but there are panels on those farmlands. So that is one aspect of achieving the 2,000 megawatts. Then we have the solar for homes. Okay, solar for homes, basically what is stopping a lot of private people from investing in solar is what we call the net metering. Net metering basically helps you to build solar and share with your neighbors, and we will give you credit for the electricity that you are putting out to your neighbors. So net metering will come in to help private sectors to do a lot. But one of the best policies that I envisage will be the game changer is the solar for small scale businesses, hairdressers, tailors, barbers. They probably spend like 100 cedis a month in electricity. They go to work, they work during the day. Some people will go and sit at work, right? And the whole day, will be in tea, and I say he doesn't get any business, but he still have the lights on. We would now put up a policy to have solar panels for all these small scale businesses so that they can use the light to generate electricity.
The initial capital outlay for solar
that's
is
the scheme.
expensive.
That's the scheme that government is going to come into HIP. So basically, government will come up with a scheme. And an Energy Commission did it some time ago. We will come up with a scheme, provide the solar panels to these industries, and they'll pay something small over a period. And when that the initial cost is taken care of, these companies and these small businesses will have a source of electricity that they will practically pay next to nothing for. As long as there's a sun, they generate electricity. So that's the 2,000 megawatts that we want to do, and that will go hardly to the cost of living that is high in this country, because the minute you take care of electricity, which is a huge reoccurring cost for most people today, it will reduce their but let me link that to jobs. To now roll out 2,000 megawatts of solar, you're looking at about 5 million PV panels. So they're going to be jobs for installers, they're going to be jobs for maintenance, they're going to be jobs for people who actually assemble these PVs in Ghana. And Dr. Bawumia wants all these PV panels assembled in Ghana. So what we intend to do is basically make sure that we have trained the youth in solar technology. We are going to have consultants who will be trained so that people sitting at home watching you today, who wants to do solar, can call these consultants and ask them about how do I get solar. Today, if you want to do solar, you can only call the companies who sell solar to get advice. We think we need to train the youth, a group of youth who people can call to inquire about the solar technology. And that is why we now say that every policy we have, you can now link it to jobs. Can you imagine how many jobs that will create with trying to deploy 5 million PV panels across the country? Now, we have low-hanging fruits like the tertiary, secondary, and the government MMDAs, right? Ministry, department, and agencies. All those will be solid. So those, that is like immediate, because if you look at police stations, right? Police stations can easily be solid. Our markets, if you look at the Kumasi market and most of these community markets, they have huge surfaces. They only come in and use small light bulbs and fan, and all those areas can be solid. So that is how we will implement the 2,000 megawatts of solar.
Super idea. Implementation could be an issue. But you see, I can't help but to refer you to what's happening now. Some institutions or agencies or organizations are doing this solar thing, government institutions. But the problem is that the solar panels are there, but the solar panels do not work. At Dental Court, for example, we know that there's solar. Sometimes it works, sometimes you go, it's not working. How sure are we that if this is done, we will not have situations where the thing is being installed at huge cost, perhaps to the taxpayer, I don't know how we're going to pay for it, but they will not be working, defeating the purpose.
Did you hear my last statement that I made? Train core technical people who will maintain and install.
Yes.
That doesn't exist now. So the Dr. Bawumia policy takes care of that.
You're telling me we don't have people to repair them?
Government has not employed people.
So
government has not employed people. There isn't a scheme to remunerate people who are trained in solar technology. It's all being done by private. So the private person who installed it is supposed to maintain. They don't maintain it.
So they have to pay them to maintain it.
Well, that's fine. So that's what I'm saying, that when that scheme is rolled out, the cost of solar, what you pay, would include maintenance. So we would have people who will be trained and they will be paid to do the maintenance. That is the new scheme that Dr. Bawumia brings on board. When you are taking me back to what is happening now, what is happening now,
you're explaining, which is good.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Look, it's a new vision. It's a new dawn.
But we need to know what he's doing.
No, but
it's okay. It's going well. I mean, you don't like it, but it's going really well.
But who doesn't like it?
No, I mean, you say you don't like me taking you back.
But no. But the most important thing is that there's a new man who, look, Doctor is a practical person, and that's what we have in common. Myself and Dr. Bawumia are practical people. And when I contested him, and we spend a lot of time together these days, and we talk because we campaign around the country, right? And you realize that the man is a practical person. That is what you need in a president. And because he has been a professor, he's been a bad worker in the farm. He's driven a taxi before. He's been a cleaner in a... No, it's true. But that's the truth.
These are student jobs.
No, but that's true. I Kojopoku have been at Pizza Hut in London. I've been a bouncer. I've been a security. So we are practical people. But a lot of politicians have never done these things before. So the most important thing...
who were taxi drivers.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just telling you that today, people who are... Look, Dr. Bawumia is a professor. He reads a lot. He understands the effect of having solutions.
Exactly the problem people say he has because they think he's a theorist.
No, he's not. He's the most practical person I've met. And I could just... No. He's the most practical person I've ever met. Look at the digitization, how he's linked digitization to a lot of the problems we have in this country. And our brother from the NDC came and said that, we talk about Ghana card, we should say one thing that Dr. Bawumia has done. Mobile money interoperability is the only thing I would say to him when he came and said that we should learn one thing. That
but he didn't do it. Perhaps
he didn't do what?
He did it at a cheaper cost.
Yes, but the point is that he were able to load on. But hold on, do you know what a politician is? A politician is the guy who has a 360 view to be able to now source the most effective way of getting things done. Like the same way I've explained to you how we're going to implement the 2,000 megawatts of solar. And you are clapping for me and clapping for Dr. Bawumia because the team have sat down, we've sat and spoken to the experts, and we know how to achieve these things. You ask who is going to pay for these solar stuff. Look, already people pay for electricity, right? But I'm going to give you an alternative that gives you a cheaper source of electricity. So nobody's saying that you're not going to pay for electricity, but we are going to make it cheaper.
I see. This is a big issue. We are concluding this part of the discussion. Dr. Kennedy, I'll give you the final word. But in dealing with the final word, what do you make of Nanado's last-minute pitch? After everything was said and done, he came to pitch to the people that he has worked with Bawumia, he's worked in Napo as well. So if he tells us that they are the people to do the job, he means business. He's serious because he's seen them work. How seriously should we take his words?
We shouldn't take it seriously. He told us he himself will fix Ghana, and we know what happened. He said he would protect the public purse. He didn't. He said he had to come there. And so basically, Nanado is a failed president. Remember what the gentleman has said very eloquently, that we shouldn't judge Dr. Bawumia by Nanado's performance. So if we shouldn't judge him by Nanado's performance, I think that he would be best not to be considered based on Nanado's endorsement. That might affect him negatively. Having said that, I think that the gentleman is very eloquent, but the problem is there is a lot too much theory. We had a lot of these promises 4 and 8 years ago, and in fairness, this is not just a weakness on the part of the MPP. I think that we allow people to make grandiose promises during campaigns. As I said earlier, we need to ground our electioneering campaigns in accountability by looking at the directive principles of state policy as enshrined in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, Article 35, Clauses 7 and 8, summarize all what we need to do. We need to have accountability, Parliament holding governments accountable, people holding politicians accountable. And actually, I want to consult some of my legal friends to see whether some of these directive principles are justiciable in the case that people come in and then, because some policy was started by the previous government, they cancel it to our collective detriment. That, for example, is bad. And I think that in actual fact, there should be a ban against making new promises when you haven't fulfilled the old ones. It seems as if the last manifesto doesn't exist. You know, talking about all these very nice policies, I wonder what happened to one village, one dam, and 1 million per
Over 500
constituency
dams
over the last
have been
7 years.
constructed, so that has been
We
done.
need,
But those are
you mean
policies
they are
of the now the
boreholes?
government. It's not the new policy.
So we need to hold people to account. And so we go back and forth about, giving credit to people when things go positive and trying to absolve them of blame. I think it's a doctrine of collective responsibility. I wish Dr. Bawumia well, but I think that the people of Ghana will do very well to examine the promises against the performance, not just for the MP, but also for the NDC. What did they say in the past and what did they do? And what are they saying now? What are the resources? Like, there's a lot of pie in the sky about investing money in this and that. I think that the same way we got $3 billion worth of COVID money and we shared them to party functionaries, we need to look at accountability. I think that the core problem we have in our governance is not ideas. I think both manifestos, the highlights of the NDC one as well as the MPP one I have seen, have actually got good ideas. Our problem is execution and corruption. I think over the last 7 to 8 years, the core ambition of a lot of people in governance, I'm not saying all, have been to transfer public wealth into private hands. That's why most of the things we do don't work. Corruption.
Very well. Thanks so much.
Let me make a quick point to my brother. Look,
Okay.
maybe he doesn't remember who he is on this channel. This is Kojo Nsafu-Apoku. I have been in this sector for 24 years. I knew him very well when during the Kufuor era. We always used to meet in Kojo Mpiani's house. I'm surprised he doesn't remember who this is. I am not a guy who sits and make. I'm not a guy who sits and make theoretical analysis. I make practical analysis.
Yeah,
I have been in this industry for 24 years.
In this case, you also don't have the power. So
No, but what I'm saying, what I'm saying is that the policy we've put down, right, is a practical one.
He's
which
saying
we've
that
written.
the problem is not the idea.
No, I don't have to implement it. But
They say
what I have put,
they say the problem is not the idea.
I know,
The
but he
ideas are
says
great.
that they are too theoretical. But I'm saying that the reason I've been able to eloquently explain them to you, and I thank him for giving me the eloquent part, but the point is that is because we have sat down, thought it through, thought of the how, put it down. Anybody who becomes minister or becomes the implementer post-2025 will be able to look at the blueprint and get it done. That's the most important thing.
Very well. So thanks so much, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. A few of your messages that have been coming through. This one from Setakoto says, this is not honest leadership, honestly. So if you are the leader who only associates with the positives and dissociates yourself with the bad one. Eduanaba Kweku Amponsa says he watched the vice presidential candidate, the vice president of the U.S., Kamala Harris, accept presidential nomination, and so in her speech went ahead to talk about doing a lot of things, reducing cost of living, building more homes, fight to ensure mortgages are not up through the roof, etc. But you're saying that if it comes to Dr. Bawumia, then we say that why don't you do it now because you are in government? Of course, the Republicans, including Trump, have asked her the same question, so it's a legitimate question to ask, Idianaba. This one from Samed Dixon said they are running away from the economy. Bawumia told the whole world that they have the best economic team. He is the chairman. He is not talking about digitalization. Okay. Francis Timor says on the issue of tax amnesty, is the vice president not encouraging non-compliance because we have had too many tax amnesties? 2017 was not successful. 2021 was completed in 2022. Now another one in 2025. So there will be another one in 2028, he's asking, and that's a tax person asking those questions. So ask again for me, he says, the vice president going to introduce new taxes? Where is he going to get the money to pay the interest payment when resuming debt servicing? So that's Timor as well. Adamu Ben Mahmoud says the matter of Dr. Bawumia implementing his manifesto program now begs the question. Manifesto programs are futuristic and cannot be implemented without budgetary and parliamentary approvals. Manifestos are forecast. If the argument of implementing manifesto programs are now reasonable, then why are the opposition NDC manifestos not implemented some 7 odd years ago and when they were in power? That stance of the opposition is pistol pointing at their feet so that when the trigger is pulled, it may cause collateral disabling damage. Okay. This one from Maxwell Owusu Chum says, Dr. Kennedy should not confuse us. Okay, I see. You didn't say the confusion though. Kobe Mens is saying that he's not happy with Kojo Safoe's explanation and a few things. All right, so this is the big issue. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll get to our next topic, which is the cocoa board and cocoa discussion. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to the big issue. Just gone back to a discussion on the manifestos, and we had Dr. Kennedy and a few others during the discussion. We are on to the next matter, which has to do with Cocoa Board and the syndicated loan, asking what the real issues are. To help us do that discussion, of course, will be Kojo Poku as well, who is a member of the MPP Manifesto Committee, Dr. Sharif Mahmood Khalid, who is back on, is a member of the NDC's Economic and Finance Committee. We will have Obed Owusu Adai, who's a campaigner at the Eco Care Ghana, convener of civil society Cocoa Platform, and Stevenson Anani Boating of the Ghana Association of Cocoa Farmers. Gentlemen, you're welcome once again to the program. Now, to provide you some updates, the Ghana Cocoa Board has announced that it will embark on self-financing of cocoa for the 2024-2025 crop season, beginning from September 2024. Cocoa Board says that it has, over the past 32 years, relied on offshore borrowing for the financing of cocoa under the cocoa syndication system. Addressing journalists, the CEO of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boyne Edu, says the new dimension will help save an estimated $150 million for the country.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Joseph Boyne Edu, has addressed journalists on plans to discontinue with offshore borrowing for the financing of cocoa in the country. He has announced that Cocoa Board would embark on self-financing for the 2024-2025 crop season, which begins from September this year.
It's quite a good time for any human being to learn his or her lessons. 32 years, we've learned our lessons, and we think that it's high time, we weaned ourselves from the offshore international financial market, and then, finance the crop ourselves here. And that's exactly what we are going to do. And I think it comes with a lot of projectory benefits. If you're able to do that, because this year we send RFPs for $1.5 billion, we're going to look for $1.5 billion. Looking at interest rates last year, which were over 8%, and plus other costs, it means that we can save almost over $150 million by just not going. The decision not to go offshore alone can save us all that money. And we need that money for other purposes. So for the first time, we will not go.
Cocoa Board appeared before the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament and provided justifications for the increase in its administrative expenditure of 3.4 billion Ghana cedis for the year 2023, following concerns raised by the minority group in Parliament.
Almost a greater portion of that is going or had gone into the rehabilitation program. And rehabilitation started on a very large note in 2019 by Cocoa Board as a funding. But the AFDB money came in 2020. So 2020, 2021, that was when there was, significant injection or investment into the rehabilitation program. Yes, we've expanded a lot, but production is not, reflecting, because all these farms are young farms. At the time the audit was done, these farms, some of them were 1 year old, 2 years, and then 3-year-old farms. And at that stage, the production of these farms cannot correspond to investments. We hope to see a corresponding increase in production, in the coming days.
All right, so you heard the Cocoa Board boss, Joseph Bawumia Edu, speaking to the Public Accounts Committee earlier. I heard him speak to journalists on how Cocoa Board is seeking to finance its operations in terms of buying cocoa beans this year. The minority has not been happy with that. The minority thinks that it is a face-saving measure, and so they've criticized that decision to transition to self-financing for the 2024-2025 cocoa season. They say it's because they become credit unworthy and no bank really is willing to lend to them at a good interest rate. So they have no option than to look within. Yes, so let me start off with Dr. Sharif, because all of us think that this is a good thing, wanting to look within to raise funds, not to go out there, which will cost you some $150 million. We want to raise 1.5 billion, which will cost about $150 million. So, Doc, why are you guys against this, or why are you guys criticizing this move to look inward and get money for our cocoa beans?
Salam, I think this is not a very brave move to start with. Two, it's not a strategic one to start with under the very current climate we have, or economic climate we have. Why do I say this? We are currently in an economic dispensation where investor confidence, thanks to a domestic debt exchange program, is waning. So if you're reverting to an internal market to raise funds where there's no confidence in investments, how are you going to justify this? That is one. Two, the syndicated loan that we went to onto the international market in time past has always been paid effectively. By far, it is only under these administrations where we have had several defaults, not just defaults, and also access. So why do you want to change your model of financing at a time you are down your knees with your tail in between your legs? So again, invariably, what it tells us is that in the international cocoa market, any buyer or investor sitting in Geneva or Antwerp is going to be very worried about what is happening, because these syndicated loans tend to, put some investor confidence in the market and a subscription of it. But now you're coming to the domestic market, of which a pipeline of investments have not been outlined to say, okay, these are the domestic investor pipelines that we're going to use to fund this. It's just said in vanilla terms. How is this ever going to put confidence in our cocoa market when it comes to the international market? And more so when we are competing with neighboring countries such as La Côte d'Ivoire, among others. So where does this place us? So I think it's a very bad position for an MD to take now, because all the optics in terms of investments, in terms of initiatives, in terms of funding are against us. So we are more at a disadvantage. So what any prudent manager of such a key sector would have done is to weather the storm before you start talking about restructuring your funding model. In any case, for the first time in the history of this country, you'd realize that we never cracked a sweat to have this syndicated loan subscribed to. But investors shy away from us. Why? Because of the economic outlook we have. So if this is not going very well, more so under a domestic debt exchange program, where blue chip investments were never touched, such as pensions, have been touched, where is the confidence and guarantee that if you brought this funding model back to, which never existed, to the domestic market, you'll be able to raise sufficient funds enough? Again, this may also be a disincentive to the local farmer. So I think that, number one, timing is wrong. Number two, the financial model has not been explicitly stated. I don't know where he's getting his figures of saving X amount of money from. He needs to justify that clearly. Even his demeanor in the press conference does not even give confidence. For me, as a speculator, I think it's their inability to have access to a syndicated loan on the international market that has made this knee-jerk decision to be taken. And instead of them to be honest enough to say this is what it is, they're saying they're changing a financial model. Because you have to be on the market, have enough subscriptions, to be in a position to say, okay, well, this year we've had a good subscription rate. We've been able to defray our cost of loans and what have you. And then the following year preceding, or maybe 2 years to come, there's a new funding model which is in transition to happen. But to just flip a coin at a time, you were unable to raise funding on the international market and saying that you are now coming locally to raise funds amidst a climate or an investor winning confidence within the sector is worrying. For me, this is going to be disruptive. And if we don't take time, it might really take us 20 years back as far as cocoa investments is concerned.
But what would you rather advise they do? For example, I mean, so you're saying that the timing is problematic. You're not even sure about the financing model, etc.
Yeah.
Going back to the international market will cost us more money. So if they think they can work it out in a way that will save some $150 million, why do you want to force them into a market they say they are winning themselves off?
I'm not forcing them into the market. Even the market is not accepting them. That's one thing they need to agree to. The market is not accepting them. And the market is only jacking up the rates because they can accept them. Their risk has become higher than ever before. Why is it that in time past we used to have good subscriptions to the syndicated loans? So I am not saying that, no, don't go to the international market or don't use the international market. What I am invariably suggesting is that, can you justify to rest how you're going to save this money off when you come to the local market? Right? What are the funding model available? What are the syndicated or the banks that forms the syndicated loan facility that Cocoa Board will be subscribing to? Let's see this, then we can run and crunch the numbers to really have a true justification that if we come locally, we'll be able to raise this money. It is enough confidence to give the economy, and then our farmers would not struggle. And competitively, we will do well on the international market.
I see. Let me speak to an industry person. I'll come to Kojo Opoku to respond to the issues. Obedo Usu Adai is a campaigner at the Eco Care Ghana, and is also convener of the Civil Society Cocoa Platform. Obed, welcome to the program. How did this revelation by the Cocoa Board boss hit you? Obed, yes, go ahead. I can hear you now.
Great. Sure. Thank you very much, Solomon, and good morning to your listeners. In the first place, I listened to the Cocoa Board CEO's press conference, and for us as civil society and also farmer groups, we accepted that new funding approach as a very, very bold and a very good step. And so we, on the face of it, we allowed them and we accept it, or we think they are being very, very bold. But on the second side, I think, and Dr. Sharif spoke about it, they just chew the strategy there with no fine details. And like I told your colleagues some time back on the morning show, that the devil is always in the details. So what are the details? What is it that they are going to do on the local market? What are the approaches they are going to use to raise this money that they are looking to raise on the local scene? But for us as farmers, over the years, we have seen that going to the international market has not been very, very good for us, because as a matter of fact, because of the syndication, we are forced to use a certain cocoa selling approach. We do the forward sales approach, and that has not been very useful to us as farmers. For example, right now that we are speaking, when you go to the market, cocoa is being sold around $7,000 per ton. But what we are getting as farmers on the ground, we are still using 2022-2023 rates, which is about less than $3,000, all because we find ourselves in this financial or funding mechanism where we are always working towards financing or paying back the loans that we took on the international market. So for us as farmers, if the government can give us a more detailed approach on how they intend to raise the funds on the domestic market, we are totally in support of doing it, raising the funds on the domestic market. We know we have certain ideas of how they want to do it, but we want to hear from them so that we can discuss and debate it on. And then again, we think they need to begin a thorough consultation with stakeholders. So they need to sit with the farmers, civil society, and then the private sector to discuss the approaches they want to use so that we will have the collective decision towards finding a more sustainable funding approach for cocoa purchasing. So on the face of it, we think it's good, it's laudable. We want to take ourselves away from the politics of it, just to see it as a strategy or as a program that Cocoa Board wants to embark on. We think it's laudable, and there are a lot of goods that can come out of it for the sector. All we need is for us to sit down and get clarity on the approaches and the mechanisms they want to use to raise these funds on the local markets.
I see. What do you say about the timing of the decision?
Well, there's never a good time to start a new strategy. If you say you are waiting for the time, and unfortunately for us, we are in an era that for the next few years, there is still going to be that shortage of beans in the market. So there can never be a good time to start this process. So it's better to start anytime that you think you are bold enough to start it. Yes, the timing could be bad because now we are not producing enough to even meet our orders. And so on one side, you could say that why don't you wait so that all the rehabilitated farms, all the interventions you are putting on could start yielding some results when you start getting your 800,000 metric tons and around that tonnage, then you will have that boldness to say, okay, now I'm winning myself off the market. But on the other hand, you cannot always wait for every and all the circumstances to be appropriate before taking bold decisions. So we think it's a bold decision, and for us as civil society and farmer representatives, we support this position, but we are also a bit skeptical. We need Cocoa Board to come to us with a more detailed strategy on how they intend to raise the funds. Like I said, we have fair ideas of how we think they want to raise it. I think Dr. Sharif mentioned one where they want to go to the commercial banks and syndicate loans on the commercial bank. We also think that there could be a more pragmatic approach by working with the international cocoa companies to kind of give an upfront payment for the beans that will be supplied to them. We can discuss that later, but as a first intervention, I think it is a good strategy and it's laudable.
You're an industry person, of course, not to draw into the politics, but the minority thinks that, and I quote, Cocoa Board was chased away from the market due to the fact that Cocoa Board is no longer creditworthy, lacks credibility, and are unable to produce enough cocoa to meet their contractual obligations. Being a player in the industry, what do you think of this?
Well, this is an interesting question, especially looking at the kind of environment that we have, the political environment that we have. But the truth is that, yes, for the past few years, Cocoa Board has really been facing challenges with productivity. Productivity has declined significantly to the extent that this year we are looking at doing less than 500,000 metric tons. That will be the first in the history of Ghana for a very long time that we are producing less than 500,000 metric tons of cocoa beans. Again, there have been challenges with the management of Cocoa Board as an institution, that they are overspending. They have a bloated staff register and all that, and that is affecting the efficient running of Cocoa Board. So all those issues put together put Cocoa Board at a level that is not very, very, very lucrative for investors. Having said that, the market knows that Ghana is the second largest producer of cocoa in the world, and that they can be guaranteed that at minimum we will produce about 500 metric tons. That alone puts Cocoa Board at a very strategic level, that when you go to the European market or you go to syndicate externally, you will get people that will show interest. The problem there is that the interest rate that they might come to you with might not be the same as if you were able to produce 800,000 metric tons. If you're doing 500,000, the risk is higher that you might not be able to meet the needs of the market. So these, coupled with other things, put Cocoa Board at a very, very challenging position. I don't want to say not credit worthy, but they are challenged. For credit, when you go to the market, you still get credit, maybe at an interest rate that will not be very conducive to your operation. But credit worthiness, they are still very solvent, and the market always responds to them when they go and float for these syndication loans?
Very well. Kojo Poku, I mean, I wouldn't say you're in government because you are not, but this is what the Cocoa Board is saying, that they are winning themselves off international markets. We have been talking about, what's the term, Ghana Beyond Aid. Of course, this is not aid though, but it does appear we want to focus on ourselves internally and raise the money. How did you receive this particular news that Cocoa Board will not go out there to raise money, but you raise the money locally?
My response was, why haven't we done this in 2017 to date? Why?
It's better late than never.
Well, that's what we always say to console ourselves when people are not thinking outside the box. Look, for me, it's unfortunate that the NDC is against it. The NDC are so comfortable with the position that they oppose everything, right? But this is something that they should welcome, right? And the point they should make is not being opposing it and saying the things they are saying, is to now go and say that, look, this is something that you should have done a long time ago. When we came into power in 2017, we had challenges, and the Cocoa Board was not the best place. The Cocoa Board run by Mr. Opuni had challenges at the time. Opuni is still in court on some of the mess that he created in Cocoa Board, right? Now, we had problems with Cocoa Board. I have worked in that sector since 2012. I have a company in Takoradi that basically does work for CMC. So I've been going to Cocoa Board, that premises, since 2012. The point is, why has it taken us 7 years to come to this realization? The CEO talks about 150 million going in terms of interest, right? We've been paying that interest since 2017 to date. Money we could have saved. When did he realize that? So look, it's unfortunate that we are now going to do it. This is something that should have been done, an innovative way of going into the market and not doing the easy way of just going for syndication loans year on year. Because what do we do with syndication loans? We raise dollar, change it into cedi, buy cocoa in cedi, sell the dollar and pay syndication loan. The better way, which we are proposing to do now, raise cedis, buy cocoa in cedis and sell in dollar. Which is the same thing that we are proposing in our manifesto to expand the gold for oil, where we raise cedis locally, buy gold, and basically sell the gold outside. So you have a commodity which you buy in cedis. Why have we been so happy to just basically raise dollar and come change it into cedis, and then basically it affected by FX? Bank of Ghana has to do the hedging, we have to go through swap, we have to go through all these things just to be able to pay back the cocoa. Meanwhile, our cocoa is traded. If you go to Cocoa Board on the 4th floor, right, there is a trading room. I think it's the 5th floor. There's a trading room, right, where they trade like the stock exchange on Wall Street. The cocoa is a commodity that's traded. There is a forward sale, and there is basically the hedging that goes on with companies that buy. So we know, because these companies have to give us contracts. Before the season starts, cocoa buying companies are giving us contracts. So we know what our contracts are. Our contracts are coupons that have value, which can now be hedged locally to basically raise the money. Every day, people are using money to buy all these coupons locally to invest. Every day, Ghanaians are investing money in coupons locally. So why couldn't we now use the cocoa coupon, which is the contracts that we are getting from our suppliers? There are two forms of credit. There's supplier's credit. We didn't even have to. Initially, yes, maybe in the past we had to do the syndication loan because the interest was low. But there's also supplier's credit, where the company that is basically buying the cocoa from you can also lend you some credit off their balance sheet, which can help you to basically do what? Sell them at a much lower discount. So if the world market price is, let's say, 10 cedis, and there's a company that sits in, let's say, Cadbury gives you their supplier's credit, right? Then they will probably give you supplier's credit and maybe buy it off you or at maybe 8 cedis, 50 pesos. Because they are basically pre-financing your work, they get a little bit cheaper. But no, because of the companies that have been involved in this thing, lobbying us to go to syndicated loan, because bear in mind, when we raise 1.5 billion, somebody also makes money. The banks that raise this syndication, they also make money, right? And we've just been happy. And for me, It was a lazy way of doing the work at Cocoa Board. Now they smell the pepper, they've woken up and they want to do what they should have been doing since 2017 till date.
Traditionally, the syndicated loan comes to cushion the CD a bit. So now that this dollars or this foreign exchange will not be coming into the economy, how do you think the CD will fare? Because around the time it comes, the CD often wobbles, and this comes to cushion it.
That money will still come into this country. You see, you are mobilizing CD to buy commodities in CD. You sell it and you receive dollar. So that is even better because you are now getting more dollar coming in. What the syndication that we do is that we get a big one inflow of $1.5 billion into the treasury, right? And that is used for whatever, right? But over a period of time, it is depleted because you now have to service the loans that comes with it. This is much better. Because what you're doing is that you are using your local currency to do a transaction and you are getting influx. That's why companies that do a lot of export, when the city goes up and people are complaining, they are happy because they are buying local production, exporting and receiving export. So the treasury will be happy. If we do this thing and the dollar, even the city weakens and the money comes in, we'll get more money for whatever that we spend because that's a much better approach. So look, we are clapping for them that, like you said, I don't like using the word better late than ever because most people don't like to come out of the box and think, right? They like to just go with the easy part and later, whatever the reason is that is making them now to take this direction should have been taken in 2017 because we've been paying, imagine $150 million a year times 6 is what, right? We've been
that's like 1.2.
That's 1.2?
1.2 billion.
Yes.
300.
Yes, 300. Yes, 1.2 billion that we paid out. That could have been money that has come into the country, which we basically use for all and help the cocoa farmers. So it's a good thing. Let's applaud it. I don't know why the NDC is saying all the things that they are saying.
No, the NDC's problem is that it's a face-saving measure because you went and you were hit in the face. You have come to repackage it and telling us that it's because you yourself decided to win yourself off when that is not the reality.
Well, that's fine, but they should clap it like the way I have. Look, it doesn't matter. Look, the most important thing is that
it's not necessary.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying those utterances is not necessary. The point, the matter is that look, something that should have been done a long time ago is being done now. Let's clap for it. Let's not say that we are opposing it, blah blah, and come back and say, oh, yes. We all know that. Look, like I said to you earlier, most people sit in 2024 and think that 2024 is like 2016. It's not. The world has changed. Today in Germany, right, when you take your prescription to the pharmacy, you might not get all the drugs on your prescription. You are given a date to come back, and when you go, there's a queue. In some parts of the European countries, when you go and you try to buy 2 bottles of oil, you're only allowed to buy 1. Supply chain has changed around the world. And in part to ongoing disruptions in the Middle East and in Russia, Ukraine, right? It's here and it's the look, the UK and in the US are facing the problems they are facing. If you listen to Kamala when she received her nomination, listen to what she says. It's as if she's speaking for Ghana, right? The things she says she will do. Those are the America. He's talking to the United States of America, but the things she's saying is the same thing that somebody will say for Ghana. It tells you that our problems are now the same problems as the USA. If you listen to before our brother who got kicked out by the Conservatives, by the Labour, what's his name, Richie Sunak. If you listen to Richie Sunak speak on the floor of Parliament before she now got kicked out, the things he was saying is as if he's speaking for Ghana. So it tells you that the problem is only not Ghana, it's all around the world. So look, let not Ghanaians sit and make it look like it's only Ghana that's having problems. The good thing is that we have a Messiah. And strong people are born in strong times.
Who is the Messiah?
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
You are calling Messiah now.
Yes.
Later when we refer to
my brother,
Messiah,
listen, I'm telling you. Oh no, you can take my word for it. And let me tell you why I call him Messiah. Because strong people are born in strong times, right? And for the work that he proposed to do, not trying to come out and say that he's going to reset Ghana, because there's no need. Ghana is okay. We don't need it resetting. Anybody who thinks that their ideology is to reset Ghana and go back to factory default, we don't want to go back to factory default.
So Dr. Sharif, it does appear that this is the outside the box thinking. But before that, let me take a quick trip to Winneba, where the NDC event is been ongoing. We've been trying to get in touch with them. I think our guys are ready now. Let's just take some insight from what's happening. Akosia Ochiri is my colleague who is on the ground. Akosia, good morning to you. Welcome to the big issue. Akosia, if you can hear me, good morning to you and welcome to the big issue. What can you report? Are people now converging on the venue? And what can you see? Which people have you identified? What are the people saying? How optimistic are they about this particular manifesto, etc.? Hello, Akosia. Hello, Akosia Ochiri. Can you hear me? It does appear that Akosia Ochiri cannot hear me. There's some noise at the background there. We will get to her when we're able to sort out all the issues. Akosia, can you hear me? Hello, Akosia. Akosia Ochiri, welcome to the program. Well, I mean, we'll continue with our program. Well, if it's ready.
Your mic needs resetting. Everything there needs resetting.
Well, I think there's a lot of noise. I can hear the noise. I'm sure there's excitement, rather. So, Akosia, can you hear me? All right. So, Dr. Sharif, I mean, just back to you. So, it does appear that the outside... Akosia, yes, I can hear you. If you can hear me, talk to us about what is happening there. How is the place looking? How are the optics? Which people have you seen? Have you spoken to? What is the vibe, as we say, like on the ground?
No. I can hear you now.
Yes, go ahead and talk to us about Winneba, yes.
Okay. Yes, I can.
Akosia, we are listening to you.
Okay, so it's a rainy day here for the umbrella party, that is the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. Today is the launch of the party's 2024 manifesto, which will be happening in some few minutes. But let me just run you through what has been happening before today's events. The party began moving into Winneba proper on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There were a lot of engagements with the community folks, campaigning on the grounds, and also essentially getting the grounds ready for this particular manifesto launch. Let me say that we are live at the Jofus Anamwa Mensah Auditorium here at the University of Education, Winneba, where this will be happening. If you can see behind me, there are long queues, a number of people, gazillion number of people that are waiting to get into the auditorium proper to witness what the party has for the country. And so let me not just waste time. I've been speaking to some members of parliament. I have with me here the Honorable Hassan Suhine, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, and also joined by the Member of Parliament for Medina. Let me start with you, Honorable Suhine. What are the fundamentals, really, of this manifesto that is set to be launched?
So, the crust of this manifesto is seeking to reset this country. It is agreed by almost everybody that this country is headed in the wrong direction. In the area of economy, in the area of education, in the area of our environment, in the area of, you name it, whichever sector that you pick up, there is general consensus that the country is headed in the wrong way. And research is there to back it. CDD reports, the Afro-Barometer report recently, the Musa Dankwa and his
Global Info Analytics.
They have all come to that conclusion that majority of Ghanaians believe that this country is headed in the wrong direction. So this manifesto is seeking to reset this country, and it's going to reset this country on a number of programs. First of all, using the 24-hour economy, ensuring that education is given the necessary funding that it requires by uncapping the GET fund and revitalizing and revamping the student loan trust scheme, and also ensuring that we give people the opportunity to, at least first years, enjoy free admission fee at the tertiary level. And those are some of the things that will, work together to throw up the necessary jobs that the youth of this country have been, waiting for. Look, unemployment rate when the NDC was in power was about 8%. It is unacceptable that after so much revenue has come to this government, they haven't been able to produce the necessary jobs, but they have rather supervised an increment of the unemployment rate from about 8% to 14%. That is unacceptable, and that is what this manifesto will be seeking to address.
All right, let me go to the Honorable Member of Parliament for Madina, Xavier Susu. The Honorable Suhini talked about resetting the country to the Ghana that you want. But what really is the practicality of it? Because we have seen the NDC win power for 8 years. You govern the country. Why should John Mahama be given another 4 years to reset the country, as you say?
Well, I think that, as my colleague Honorable Soini had already said, there is enough data out there that shows clearly that the country is heading in the wrong direction. And if we want to reset, it is important that we reset because, like you rightly said, when NDC was leaving office, you have unemployment rate being around 8%, and today it's about 14.7%. So definitely there's a need for a reset. Otherwise, very soon, the teeming youth who are not getting jobs will become a matter of national security, and that can actually swallow the entire country. Because so long as you are getting a number of people getting out of school, getting frustrated, not getting jobs, and so on and so forth, then you know that the country is definitely heading to a doom. And so asking for a reset is very critical. Not only that, when the NDC was leaving office, look at the national reserves that we had. Look at the total national debt at the time we were leaving office. Around almost about some 120 billion. And even as at that time, the NDC's contribution to that external debt since the independence of Ghana was approximately 70 billion.
But you would agree with me that external shocks contributed to the downfall of the economy at that time?
Well, it's not entirely true. It's okay to say that external shocks will definitely have some effect. But how those shocks are managed is what shows whether somebody is showing commitment. The MPP never showed any commitment to, building this country. And so it will be completely untenable to hold the argument that it's external shocks that made the MPP borrow as much as they are borrowed. Taking our external debt from like 120 billion to almost over 650 billion, and you have nothing to show. No hospitals, no schools, you have not invested in any infrastructure, you declare a first year of roads, second year of roads, and yet no roads ever gets done. You say one constituency, one factory, nothing like that happened. One constituency, $1 million a year, nothing like that happened.
But they said that 70% of their manifesto promises were accomplished.
Absolutely false. The question is, it seems the MPP want to take Ghanaians for granted. The question is, so why did they fulfill those manifesto promises? Because I am from Madina constituency. Madina is a municipality of over 250,000 people. So if they have fulfilled their manifesto promises, Madina would have felt it. The people of Madina would have felt it. The citizens in Madina would have felt it. But it is zero. I'm telling you for a fact that for the last 8 years of the MPP administration, all roads given on contract in Madina, not one of them got completed. So they failed. Absolutely.
All right. Honorable Suhini, let me just wrap up with you. Do you think that Ghanaians are going to buy into this manifesto by the MPP as compared to that of the NPP's bold solutions?
Well, it is not in the sloganeering. It is in the evidence of delivery. And clearly, if you look at all the indicators, it shows that the NDC has a better record of delivery on their, delivering on their promises and on their manifesto. When we promised that we were going to, eliminate schools under trees, we did that. Today, they are returning, and there's a need for us to reset and rescue this country and build the Ghana that we all want. When we promised to improve healthcare by investing in, primary healthcare, ensuring that CHIPS compounds were built, and other referral hospitals were built across the country. We delivered on that. And so you go to almost every region in Ghana today, and there's a regional hospital thanks to the hard work of the NDC. When we promised to, retool our energy sector, We did that under President Mahama. We increased generation capacity to about 5,000 from about 2,000. And that is why this government has not experienced doomsday. But for the generation capacity that the NDC added, we would have had doomsday because they have not generated even a kilowatt of electricity. Same can be said in many other areas that we promised to deliver, and we delivered. And so when we say it is time for us to rescue this country and build the Ghana we want, it is based on our track record of delivery.
Thank you so much. And let me just announce that we are currently in front of the Joseph Sanamwa Auditorium here at the University of Education, Winneba. And I can say emphatically that the running mate of John Mahama, that is Professor Nana Jane Opokwajiman, has just arrived here, and she will be taking her seat once she enters the auditorium. But let me just still pick more thoughts from the members of Parliament, party executives, on what is expected in this manifesto launch. Honorable, you're welcome to ChannelOne.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. A lot of things have been said. We're talking about 24-hour economy, which is your flagship program. You're talking about job creation. You're talking about the commissioning of National Women's Development Bank. But really, do you think that these policies that you are bringing are the...
Well, that's Akosi Altri there speaking to some officials of the NDC. We will go back to Winneba soon after 12 o'clock, but we want to come in studio and wrap up quickly so that we can have time for the NDC manifesto launch proper. So we're dealing with the cocoa matter, so we just took a quick detour, a quick brief.
Unfortunately, you brought a whole kind of worm that you open.
Wait. Let me time. We have just a few minutes. Let me sort out Obed. Obed, so we've heard a lot about what you have said and what Kojo Poku has said and what Sharif has also said. What would be your way forward comments in respect of where this administration hopes to take Cocoa Board and the matters regarding cocoa? Just in 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much. I think the way forward is, first, this strategy has been announced. The way forward is to have a multi-stakeholder conversation with the players within this space, the private sector, farmers, the civil society, to think and develop a more sustainable financing mechanism, which is locally entrenched. We believe in the local process of raising funds. One way we can do that is to work with the companies. The companies have money and they can pre-finance some of the purchasing. We don't need to go to the commercial banks to borrow at a rate of 25%. We can raise the funds through the companies that are already operating here. So we for us, the first step is explaining what this strategy is all about. What are the mechanisms, the approaches they want to use in raising the over 1.5 billion that they will need to purchase cocoa for the 2024-2025 season. For us, that's what we are waiting for.
Thank you so much, Obed. Obed Owusu Adai is a convener at the Civil Society Cocoa platform. Dr. Sharif, 30 seconds. Okay, I think I hear he's gone. He's going to deal with his party matters. All right, concluding remarks.
Quickly, right?
Mm-hmm. You cannot come on this program when Kojo Poku is on and do those lies. That MPP have not added a single megawatt to the grid. It's a lie. And I'll give you the total number we've added 2017 till now. 1,646 megawatts. And I'll give you the breakdown quickly. AXA, in 2017, we added AXA 260, Asogle 180, Car Powership 235. In 2018, we added AXA Phase 2.
Car Powership existed before.
No, you see, that's the problem. No, hold on. Let me explain to you. No, let me explain to you.
This was additional.
Let me explain to you. Okay, so now, the lies they tell Ghanaians, right? They said you've not added to the grid. It's different from you signing the PPA. So yes, admittedly, the NDC signed these PPAs, but they were not added to the grid. So when they say that MPP have not added anything to the grid, that's a lie. Because you have signed the PPA, but we added.
What were they doing?
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, that when we came into power, car power existed, but in half the capacity.
Okay, so the capacity has been increased.
Yes, 235. Okay. We added, we moved it to Takrade, moved it from HFO in Tema to Takrade on gas, and added another 235. Yes, okay. So we added that. The MPP did that in 2017. AXA Phase 2, 110. SunPower, 360. Mini Energy, 20. In 2019, TT2PP 7 megawatts, Amandi 203 megawatts, Gensa 29 megawatts. In 2020, Early Power 144 megawatts, Bew Solar 10 megawatts, VRE Solar 7.5 megawatts. In 2021, Damine Gensa 28 megawatts. Bew Solar 41, VRE Solar 10. All in total 1,646 megawatts added by the NDC to the grid. So if anybody sits on TV and says that MPP have not added any megawatt to the grid, it's a lie.
Very well.
Yes, let me move on, please. Quickly. The road, the Medina MP, Katamansu to School Junction, newly done, completed, built by the MPP. Boteman Road to the
but that's not Medina.
But it's adjacent to him.
That's not Medina.
He said that no road has been completed, started and completed, but he uses that road every day. He uses that road every day.
That's not Medina.
No, but the point is that he uses that road every day.
Thanks so much, Kojo Safu. And I said Kojo Safu. Kojo Safu Poku for being on the show today. All right. So this is how I conclude today's edition of the program. My name is Selom Adunu. Thanks to all my guests.